Welcome, everybody. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And today is Tuesday, April 28th. No, it's not. I'm looking at the wrong agenda. Sass, I'm already, that's not a great start. Tuesday, May 26th. The planning board, our control review board. And just to start off, Maddie, if you could help us take attendance.
Michael Anderson. Here. Holly Thurston. Here. Pam Nelson. Here. Richard Klein.
Here.
And Chair Roy.
Here, very good. So we have 5 members, which is one more than a quorum, so it's good. Just a quick note on the agenda, we have an item, part 1, additional business for the board. We're going to approve the minutes in a second, review the minutes. Item B under there, which is a recommendation for local laws, recommended to the end of the agenda, so we can hear everybody who's here to present their projects without having to wait through that conversation. But starting off with the approval of the minutes, I think everybody that's here today was here at the last meeting, so can I have a motion to approve those minutes? I'm just gonna make one note that the minutes, the attendance on the minutes last month showed member Nelson as an alternate member, but she was a member prior to, elevated member prior to this meeting, so just I'll initial that on. But with that, I try the motion to approve minutes.
Holly Thurston, motion to approve the minutes. Michael Anderson, second.
And then the objections, right, so that passes. Okay, so we're gonna jump right into part 2 of the agenda at this point, new business. So first up, item A, VAR 05/2026, this is for 2 Marble Place. And this is a application for VAR approval for a new drawing addition. So we have the applicant for 2 Marble Place here. We have it's maybe in the Zoom waiting room.
I don't see any hands. If you are one of our attendees over Zoom this evening and you are related to the application of 2 Marble Place, can you please raise your virtual hand so that we can bring you in as a panelist?
I mean, yeah, I know. I'm just gonna ask you, Maddie, maybe I'm gonna circle it on my agenda, and I'm probably gonna forget. But when we get to the end of new business, I will just ask you to remind me if I forget.
Could I maybe just ask Jamie the name on that application so that we know who we're looking for, please?
Jamie, can you hear us? Are we getting audio?
I believe I would have heard. Joe, can you raise your hand if you can hear us, please?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Derek?
I was just gonna see if there were other available chairs.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Jamie, who is the applicant on 2 Marble Place? Keep our eyes peeled for them, please.
I'd have to look at the application. It's listed as an LLC.
Perfect.
They have a
Number 1, the first item on our agenda. So you can welcome. So we're going to ask you to present. We're going to have Maddie will drawings up on the screens. And if you just walk us through the work that you're proposing to do, introduce yourself first for the record, and then we'll go from there.
All right, my name is Leo, and my brother owns the property. He couldn't make it, so I came for him.
Okay.
Can you give your last name and address also, please?
Last name is BAJRAMAJ. Address is 6 Farmway Drive, Arley, New York, 10502.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna we have some type photos. If you can kind of walk us through what you're proposing to do here.
We want to renovate the house and add an extension in the back.
Okay, so this is 2 Marble, correct?
So which one is
2 Marble is the one at the bottom. Bottom center.
Let's just kind of.
This one?
Yes, on the corner there, the right corner.
Okay. All right, and maybe we go down to the plans. I just want clarity in terms of what's being, what you're adding where. I know there's some material list on there and building elevations. Okay. So is that,
The gray patch would be what I'm adding.
okay. Just keep scaling through, scrolling through. All right, let's just start on that first plan. Is that, these are demo?
The demo?
Sorry, no, this is good, actually. These are the, proposed plans. So you've got the dark, that's that volume in the rear that's being added on, playroom.
Yes,
Okay.
correct, I'm sorry, I
That's
think
okay.
I'm just speaking for now.
Just keep going through. We can get to the elevations.
This would be the second floor.
Just while we're scrolling, this is as of right? There are no variances or anything that we're needed for that.
No, it's just there.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
all right, some other town. had-
Yeah. That's why.
Okay, so we're looking at this image, the existing right side elevation, so you have existing and proposed, right? So,
Yes, this is the existing.
so you have that, you're just effectively kind of expanding.
So the only
side
thing I'm gonna
back.
expand is the driveway side and the back of it. To add a couple more rooms. So
Okay,
that's how it looks from the side here on the right, on top right. And then the bottom right would be what it's gonna look like after I'm done.
it looks like some of the windows on the front, all of the windows are changing from like a 2/2 to like I guess just a casement.
Yes.
And then on the street facade, almost, I don't think I realized this earlier, but the ground floor windows are making smaller. Are you changing the rough opening there?
No, shouldn't be changing.
You go to the first floor windows, it looks like, is that just definitely looks like that's being, the sill line is higher. Is that a kitchen where you're trying to put cabinetry behind it, or is this just like?
No, that would be the entrance, that would be like the living room. In the front.
Okay. And I just go to the, I just want to see if there's a alignment for the sills above. It looks like, yeah, so if you look at the existing elevation, it looks like that sill level aligns and then something happened. Oh, both of those window blocks on the second
Or
floor.
maybe my architect raised them. Cause they're a little low.
Okay. That would be important, I mean, because it looks quite nice in the existing elevation. I like the shingles that you're adding at the top center, but those windows look a little.
Are you proposing to move those windows?
I proposed it with my architect drew, so.
Because, I mean, we could always consider conditioning it.
If you want it as what is shown as existing, I could give it to you as what it's existing. The
Yeah.
sizes and, the level from ground to sill.
Board members,
Yeah, that was my big question about this proposal was the change in the windows from the 2/2 to the 1/1. And I do like the existing elevation better.
yeah, and the door as well. I mean, I guess I feel less strongly about that change, but it's got like a, existing floor panel door is really nice and being replaced with something that looks a little more generic. Do you know if the existing door is that how old is the house? Is that
It's old, the door
Yeah.
is beat up. To be honest with you, the whole house is beat up, so.
yeah, no, I get it.
But if you like that style door, I could give you, the style door that it has now.
Is that a second entrance to the same?
So there's an entrance here,
Right,
there's an entrance, that door,
right,
and then you're going a little too far.
okay,
And there's another entrance between the two windows. It's like a little patio, that window right here that you see now,
yeah,
that there's a post that's
Yeah.
on the roof. There's a door on the side there.
yeah, it's, if you
It's
keep
like,
going,
you can't see it in the picture,
well,
but
you can see it on the side elevation.
yeah, so. Yeah, that's the door right there, that's correct.
That's what
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Didn't want mind reading or you.
Would it be helpful to go back to the photographs of the house just to look at the existing windows again? I mean, they look one way on the drawings and then to see what they actually look like on the property. Because maybe they're hard to say on the bottom floor.
Right, they do look like. And the second floor windows are
So
all.
that's the height that I would keep it at. I was not changing this height.
Right. And it's also, it does look like it's almost maybe even a 2/1. No, it's just hard to tell, because like the index screen is making it harder to see. Are you guys comfortable keeping the 2/2 window configuration?
Absolutely.
At least on the street facing elevation.
I mean, I have no problem with the windows. If it's your house, you can be more windows.
I mean, would it be new windows or the existing windows?
No, I would have to replace all of
Replace
it.
everything.
The windows are all old wood.
Right,
If they were in good shape, I would repair them and fix them, but some of them on the side, they're missing.
right.
So,
And what's happening with the, I don't remember from the drawings, what's happening on the portico or the porch, is that staying?
everything in the front is safe. The only,
But you're rebuilding those, we can see that their notes on the post,
Yes.
so they're being retrimmed.
the roof,
Yeah.
Okay, can we look at the rear elevations, work our way through this? At this point. Alright, so first of all, I appreciate the existing and proposed elevations, it's really clear the way that your architect presented it, so. We can keep it zoomed out, actually, maybe it's easier just to see the difference between what's there and what's being proposed. But there's other side elevation, similar windows. There. And it looks like these are double hung and you have casements on the other side. I don't know if that was with intent, it just, for us, just having clarity in what you're actually proposing is for.
they're all gonna be double hung.
They're all double hung, okay, because go up to one more guys, again, I just want to be clear where, so if we have conditions on this, that we know what they're gonna be. We just, Matt, you can scroll to the prior sheet one more time. But, right, it looks like those windows are casements, that is true. That's
No, they look, I don't know if that's what he put it on his drawings, I didn't review it,
okay,
so.
um,
But doesn't it have to be for variances too, for like, okay, so.
I'm really just asking if that's what you're proposing, that's fine, I'm just trying to understand what it is, this the secondary,
My proposal is gonna be everything double hung.
everything double hung?
Everything's gonna be
Okay.
double hung.
Okay, so, now you can keep working our way through here.
Let me see that, you guys, guess it's the next page, yeah, so I'm just a little confused as what's happening with the windows on the proposed left side.
Sorry, can we just have a pause for 1 second? Hi, folks, I know it's like super crowded in here. I'm happy to go grab some chairs when we have a break, but as a reminder for those who weren't here earlier, we can hear every single thing that's getting picked up on the recording. So, no, don't apologize, but just if you need to have a conversation, please, take a step out into the hall and come back when you're through. Sorry.
That's okay. Now, I was just a little confused about the configuration of the windows on the proposed left side elevation, that what are these smaller windows? Is there, that's representing the change in the layout?
Yeah, so the top one is where the existing house, and then the second one would be going bigger. So I think that's the bathroom. So that's
I would
why,
read those as bathroom windows.
those are my bathroom
On
windows,
both floors.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, keep scrolling through. The house section, maybe we keep going. And maybe just finish up with that, there was a sheet, I think, in this set with materials, I just wanna get back to those. And while Maddie is scrolling, I have a motion from the board to open the public hearing on the application.
Rich Fine, open.
All right, any objections? See none. We're now in a public hearing. Is there anybody in the room right now who's here to speak to this application? Don't see anybody. If there's anybody on Zoom, you can use the hand raise function if you would like to speak. And nobody, Maddie is shaking her head. No. Okay, so just gonna just put a pin in that for a second, just looking at the materials. The. So you just talked a little bit about the siding, it's that dark blue,
It's like a grayish bluish.
okay. And that's the linear siding,
That's, yeah, it's all vinyl siding.
okay, and also how about the shingle at the, you know, at the roof, at the.
The roof shingles?
Yeah, no, not the roof shingles, there's a shingling on the roof,
Oh, on the front,
yeah, on the front,
it's gonna be, I'm gonna try to save it, save
okay,
what's there existing.
okay,
Just sanding and, cause that's
Okay.
very old, so it looks,
yeah,
it looks very pretty.
yeah, and that's gonna be what color?
It's gonna be white,
It's white, okay.
yes, as is existing.
As
Just, it's gonna be a finish,
Okay.
you know, sand it, if I can save it, if not, then I'll replace it to whatever the material it is.
Okay, so we'll have
It'll look the same.
the dark blue linear siding, the white trim, the white shingles, this is the railing that you're proposing on the front porch.
Yes,
You scroll down, adding the black roof, it's all, the roof is 100% new, right, you're not,
yeah, I'm gonna rip out the whole roof, all the plywood.
okay. That is after the columns and soffits, and actually that front door looks a lot nicer than how it was drawn in the elevations. All right, I mean, board members, thoughts, questions on this?
We don't see the window specs, but I guess.
Is there a window sheet in here?
No.
There's not, okay. So, but we should just discuss the windows before we leave the public hearing. I think from, I heard the applicant say that the design intent is for all new windows to be double hung. And I think that the other piece that I heard is the design intent is for all of the street facing windows to the rough openings to match, to remain as, the same as the existing rough openings. And that, I mean, I'll go back on the 2/2, I mean, that is, that's a design choice, I don't know if there's, I think we should have consistency. I think if they're all 2/2, that's great, if they're all 1/1, I think that would be okay. But any thoughts from that on the board? As far, maybe, I don't know, Valerie or Taryn, in terms of having that as a condition. Just having the street facade windows be double hung, that all match each other in. Right, I'm just trying to articulate
Yeah,
a.
absolutely, all windows are gonna look the same.
Um,
Now, some pictures it shows you, it has grids in it,
right,
and then some don't.
that's the question that we're trying to
So,
resolve.
if you like grids, I give you all grids.
Yeah, I mean,
To be honest, because it's been a long time, I'm building to live there myself too, so.
we're not, I mean, this is it's on, you're proposing something to us, we're not, I'm not gonna, it's not a design critique, we're just making sure that our purview is relatively limited on this. So, but as far as, I think we can state that they will be as drawn, 1/1 double hungs that map, and that all of the windows in the street facade will be of the same type. I'm just trying to articulate conditions.
So the conditions I have are the street facing. Openings, the windows which would be double hung windows 1/1
It's fine,
throughout the.
throughout the entire,
throughout the-
well, I guess with the exception of the bathroom windows. Okay, any other thoughts on this from the board?
Okay, I prefer the 2/2, but.
I think I do too, but yeah.
Okay.
Over two.
No, I think it's really okay. It's not. Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Michael Aaron, the motion to close the public hearing. Ollie first and second.
All right, any objections to that? I do not see any. The public hearing is closed. I think we've already pretty much just put together a list of conditions, which I think are now officially on the record. So can I have a motion to approve the application with the conditions already listed?
Rich Klein, motion to approve.
Michael Aaron, second.
All right, we'll do a roll call.
Okay, Pam Nelson.
Aye.
Holly Thurston. Aye. Michael Aronson.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Aye. Very good, so the motion carries, so you will get you have to wait, obviously, for Joe, not necessarily, but Joe will put together a resolution. Or we'll it'd be issuing a permit after he gets a signed resolution to this board, so this is kind of one step, and it's not. Okay, so need to wait for a little bit of additional information, right?
Is that a long wait? I'm sorry, that's.
I don't know.
I mean, the resolution usually takes us a couple of weeks, but then once we have the resolution, and assuming we've already applied for the building permit, we should be.
Thank you so much.
I heard it.
Everyone, have a good night. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody. All right, next up on the agenda, 81 Berlin Avenue. This is going to be a planning board 05/2026, and the applicant is requesting site plan and conditional use approval for the Westchester Valley Company being used as a and so have here. And I think just as a note, today we're gonna be discussing this as an introduction, as effectively an informal discussion for this board, not in the open public hearing, because it's, we don't need to make sure that everything was noticed properly, but it is important because for everybody, on board to be familiarized with the request so we can move forward next time more efficiently. All right, so welcome. You guys can introduce yourselves and I think just kind of give us an overview of your use at the property, and I'll probably ask. We'll ask Valerie to give us some background as well.
Hi, I'm Kathiana Keelan. I am Board of Trustee President for Rec Ministry. And this is.
Brian, I'm the administrative pastor for 81 Berlin Avenue. So to give you an overview, right now the building, the first 2 floors, the basement level, and the first floor is being used primarily for the church. The second floor is mostly unoccupied. That's still being used by one small tenant, Devereaux. And we also have a small congregation that's there. That's, I'm thinking about 50 members, a little bit more than that. The third floor in question that we're talking about, Westchester Valley, have been at the property about 10 months, close to that. They've been there about 10 months. And the main issue that I guess we're discussing right now to bring to the table to talk about more is the issue of parking primarily. And from what we've observed, done, I'm there every day. I've done countless studies, pictures, assessments, and with all the data that I've gathered so far, we haven't had any kind of issue with our group meeting versus Devereaux. We're actually maxing out from Sunday to Saturday. We're maxing out, I'd say, the daytime. Well, you know what? Let's leave Sunday out first. Let's start with Monday to Saturday. We're maxing out maybe 4 to 6 cars on property because tenants are not using most of the spaces. They're coming in and out. Sunday's actually the grand day, obviously, for a church. So Westchester Valley is coming after we're done. We're usually done a little bit after 12 or so. So there's little or no overlap. We haven't seen any issues, to just be frank with you, with all the gathering information for months.
Okay, and just like Valerie, maybe you can give us a little more history, because I know that there's prior resolutions kind of documenting or kind of describing what's been allowed in the current site plans and.
Right, and I think, Maddie, can you pull up they actually submitted a planning chart or a parking chart as part of their submission. A letter. Well done. There you go.
There you go.
So this particular application, unlike some of the other applications you deal with like parking, this particular application goes back over 15 years. Where they originally got use variance for certain uses within this building. And based upon the uses over time, they've come back to the boards with specific parking requests in terms of the uses that are on the site and then the number of parking spaces that are available. So I think this particular application really involves, analysis on your end of the parking and whether, the Westchester Ballet and its use along with the other uses there, the parking can be accommodated, or if not, they would have to go seek a variance of the zoning board of appeals. But the zoning board of appeals in their original resolution, and I attached all that to this board's packet, so I recommend maybe taking a look at that for before next month's meeting, but the original PGA resolution sort of, they granted it, but it was a combined, review from both the planning board and zoning board and coordination on this particular project.
And that was a site plan approval combined with,
Yeah, so the original site plan, I believe, was originally was a use variance, and then they had the applicant go to the planning board for site plan approval, and then that's where the parking got finalized, and then they came back again, I think in 2012
12.
to get revisions to the parking requirement.
all right, and whereas that was a use variance, we are looking separately at a conditional use. For this.
Right, and it's since when they originally were before the boards, the zoning has changed, so the use variance is less of an issue at this point in time, because prior to that, the organizations were not permitted in that zone.
Got it. Okay, so then really, I think just to summarize for this board, there's a question, and I think this, both the applicants, I think, like description of the use of the site and observations on parking, which I think go hand in hand with the chart that's up here, is kind of understanding how the site's being used with this new LA company as an occupant, and how that meshes up with these prior resolutions. So just going through, familiarizing yourselves with what was, with what our predecessors kind of laid out, and the ZB, the prior ZBAs. have
Right, and
laid
I
out.
think, even current conditions of the existing uses have changed since 2012 as well. I think on a call, you mentioned that, your services have less people attending in person and more over Zoom. So
Yeah.
that in itself also is shifting, some of the parking needs that were presented to the board in 2012.
So looking at the overall parking capacity of the site, looking at the
Right.
various uses, when those uses are in place, and this is something we've looked at in other contexts here before.
I mean, since COVID, and this is nationwide for churches, attendance is largely down, people are doing virtual, and we're a big family church, so you hardly get one person coming in a vehicle. It's like 5 or 4. We used to have to do 2 services, but now we're down to 1, and we're not packing that out.
Yeah,
So,
and as a pastor, I wish there were more people coming out, but unfortunately, that's not what we're contending with in the reality, day-to-day operations.
Got it.
But
So is the ballet company gonna be doing performances there, or they're just doing like a class there?
no, they're not doing performances there. That's where they do their after school and, their practice, but they're not doing performances there. And with them, and Amy's here, the parents don't really stick around. It's a pull in the parking lot, drop your kid off, come back. So we haven't had any issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other board questions on this? All right, I think that the issues have been laid out, I think, pretty clearly. I appreciate you guys coming to speak with it, and I think hopefully we can move this forward more concretely at our next meeting. I have a motion to adjourn this item for this evening.
First, I make a motion to adjourn the item.
Which one second?
All right, any objections to that? Yeah,
One other
yes.
thing, just to note, I did issue a memo, and in there are some, in section 270-30.
yes,
There are some provisions that allow flexibility in the way you calculate parking.
yes.
So you might wanna take a look at that, because.
I read all of it, and I went online and I read everything that's there, and in 2012 and prior to that, you guys gathered the data from whoever was arguing, Jerry Smith and others, and it's really in your hands ultimately, because the parameters that govern churches in terms of even the numeric comparisons, 1 parking space per 4 individuals doesn't really work for us, because again, based on what Kay was saying, a lot of our people are virtual, a lot of our people are coming as families, as groups, and a lot of our people are taking taxis there, so there are a lot of different things to contend with numerical that affect how many spaces we're actually using day to day. For example, tonight, 90%, there may be 4 spaces that are occupied. Fridays, we're not there regularly as it used to be. We're there every other Friday.
Twice a month.
Yeah, twice per month. So a lot of dynamics have changed, and I tried to enumerate some of those in a cover letter, but looking forward to future discussions.
Very good. Thank you
Thank you
guys
for
very much.
your time.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so, next up is a joint planning board and BAR. It's planning board 05/2026 and BAR 06/2026. This is an application at 139 Main Street. So it's a site plan, conditional use, BAR, and pre-op approvals for an adult use cannabis dispensary. So CJB is here to speak for the applicant. So if you can give us just kind of like, the high level of what this project will entail kind of architecturally, kind of walk us through the site plan. It'd be helpful to kind of understand programmatically how this space will work, on Main Street, front, back, how, people move through, how product and deliveries, and kind of just give us that overview.
We also have a call on Charles here, which is the applicants as well.
Okay.
We were in front of the board with this project before, which is 159 Main Street. If you recall, a year and a half ago, we got approvals to have a retail store here. It was a food retail. Unfortunately, that did not work out for the tenant. So Carl and Charles, I've taken over, and there's gonna be a wellness center / dispensary. The changes to the exterior that we have proposed and approved for the prior project are not changing except for the sign. We have received certificate of appropriateness, all of that.
No, I would just note actually on that point, I think because that was one of the things that was very confusing about these drawings where you can see kind of actually, I'm trying to think of the word here, but yeah, previously approved, but this is a new application, right? And so,
But I think for the historical, I was just trying to find out for the historical conservation board, we're still going back to them, but we haven't changed what they originally approved.
I think it would still be just for the purposes of, we're reviewing a new project, kind of what they are now, what's changing. It's great that there was a previous certificate of appropriateness issued. I'm sure it'll make it a lot easier this time. But that was never built, and this is a different project.
Okay, so if you.
Or,
Yes. Sorry. Oh. Yeah. There you go, that's gonna be hard business law. So this is about 1,800 square feet. The store has access from both Lenore Street, the rear, and Main Street. And we're gonna have 2 entries, and there's gonna be a general display area. It's gonna be a point of sale. We're gonna have offices in the rear and the front. And we have 2 security points as it is required, one on Main Street and one on Lenore Street. Then
Is the Leonard Street a public entrance or is that
it's gonna be a
public entrance?
Yeah. We went through some of the comments. I mean, the area in itself, it's about 1,800 square feet, like I said. We're gonna have deliveries weekly. There's gonna be weekly deliveries to the place. And there's gonna be like a medium-sized van for security. It's gonna be large vehicles.
And is that gonna be on Main or on Leonard?
Most likely will be on Leonard.
Right,
I'm not sure.
We would need to have clarity. I mean, that's something you should look into, just logistically, that should be built into the site plan.
well, and also specifically because it's not gonna look the same as it looks right now in 6 months. Because there's gonna be a parking garage right there, so.
On off Leonard.
Yeah.
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 Crane got really big, I know this is history.
I know there is a new law dictating the hours of operation. We're gonna comply with that as well. And
Has that been determined yet, or is that something that you're trying to work out, or is it?
I mean, we are in compliance with the regulatory bodies on that.
We haven't, we will. provide you
Understood,
with that.
right, as part of the site plan approval, we asked that the hours of operations be listed into the site
Okay.
plan, as a site plan item.
And the number of employees, we're talking about 4 to 6 employees maximum per shift. And again, the exterior, if you want to talk about that, which is adding, which is.
Do we have like, even just the street view image of what's there, that might be
Yeah.
helpful for.
Unhelpful. Talk amongst yourselves.
It's,
Do you
yeah.
think-
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you.
for all of you.
So we do need information on any lighting, doors, like where that's gonna be located. Also the signs, if there's any information on the signage itself, materials, that kind of thing. Also, we want more information on how the deliveries are gonna be made, how often. Also the method of trash pickup, where any dumpsters or bins will be located. And then hours of operation, so the village did adopt new cannabis regulations, so there are specific, specifically as part of the application process, you are supposed to submit the proposed hours of operation to us. And that they should meet the requirements of the regulations. Also, as part of the application, you're supposed to provide a grand opening plan, sort of an overall idea of like what you're gonna do when it's grand opening and, in terms of like if there comes like traffic or. Right. And then security. So as part of the application submission, you do need to provide us the information on your security plan for the site.
The same that was provided to OCM.
Correct.
Yes,
That's it. Okay,
right, so that's the existing storefront.
yes.
I don't know if there's any way to zoom in on that. I'm not gonna pressure you too much, Patty, on this.
I need a mouse. I need a
The
real
Google
mouse.
wanted to stay on the other side of Main Street. But maybe we can do a quick comparison maybe to the existing, to the proposed, elevations. So
Right, so.
just tell us what's new on that,
One
because
of the
I think
things
ultimately this is gonna be, we're gonna defer to the HPC on this as a
One of the
BAR.
things that originally they have requested is that they felt that the adjacent store was more established and they wanted to match the finishes and the style that I guess is 161.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but not the recessed door, right?
no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. We have.
Okay, so, all right, I think that's clear, and I think one other thing that I don't think we've discussed is from a parking perspective, this meets the 10 spot waiver, correct? So there's no park the payment in lieu or any other,
That's cool.
on that, so parking is a resolved issue. Okay, so then the next step for this application would be a couple things, we're gonna open a public hearing in a moment, and then also, as far as referral to HPC, is that something our board needs to make that referral, or is that automatic referral to the building board? Yeah. Okay. So just starting off, can we have a motion to open public hearing on the application?
Motion to open public hearing.
Now, is there anybody here that wants to speak to this application?
Can I just ask before we get started,
Yes.
we're getting a lot of complaints about background noise, and I'm really sorry, we have folks listening from home who are commenting.
Got it.
So can we please kind of keep that to a minimum?
Yeah, guys, so this is a new system, it is ridiculously sensitive, and it'll also turn up in the transcripts, so. So please take any conversations outside, so yes, I'm sorry, I saw your hands, you can come on up, introduce yourself, name, place of residence, and then you can speak to this
Yes.
application.
I'm Lindsay Farrell, 19 Davis Lane, Ossining. I've spent more than 40 years on Main Street. I'm the president and CEO of Open Door Care Network. I've been before this board many times. I'm sure you've seen our absolutely gorgeous new building at 2 Church Street. I'm extremely proud of it. It was very expensive, and we're currently in the process of gutting and completely redoing 165 Main Street. I have not followed the village's cannabis law. I just recently gotten up to speed on that. I've driven by the dispensary, which was the old bakery. I understand there's another one that's going up by St. Augustine's Church and that nursery. That guy was from Sleepy Hollow. He opposed our facility in Sleepy Hollow, so I was sort of familiar with him and his landscaping business. Happy that he sold it. I'm aware of the other facility down by the train station next to the wonderful cafe. When I heard about this application, I became ill, and that's why I'm here. I'm ill because I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, I adore Ossining, and I certainly understand cannabis in New York State, and I certainly understand the opportunity that it represents. And I certainly understand the state's intention to allow entrepreneurs who have been marginalized in the past and negatively impacted by arrests around marijuana to have access to these licenses. I must admit, my favorite TV series was Weeds, way back when. It was hysterical, right? I don't know if any of you remember it. So like, I get it. But when I heard about this application, I was sick. And I'm sick because I have spent my entire career in the field of health equity. I have spent my whole career serving people in Ossining, in Portchester, in Sleepy Hollow, in the Merrimack, in the Ossining School District, in the Portchester School District, in Brewster, and now up in Saugerties in Ulster. I have spent my entire career ensuring equitable access to healthcare for people who are marginalized and underserved. So when I heard about this application, which is, at Bob's Army Navy, Bob and I were, wonderful companions for many, many decades. I was sick and I thought, really, we want this on Main Street in Ossining? I am sure, in order to stand up a business like this, you need access to capital. I am sure it will be a very nice facility. But I think of all of the work that Open Door has done around prevention, we are extremely focused on preventing addiction. And so if this was a liquor store, if this was a casino, I would be out and I would be speaking quite negatively about it. It's bad for people. It's bad for people. Alice Joslow is here and she can talk about all the work and all the funding that we received from the United States of America to reduce substance use. And I can also tell you about the incredible mental health program that we are operating at Open Door, which we have expanded across Westchester County, in Mount Vernon, in New Rochelle, because guess what? There's an incredible mental health problem, particularly among youth in this day and age. There is insufficient access to mental health services. And so Open Door has once again stepped in to address the lack of access in mental health. So a cannabis dispensary 2 doors from Open Door just doesn't jive with our vision of Main Street and what we hope Main Street and what we hope Ossining will become. We are tolerating the parking structure in the back of your property. It's not ours. We are very good neighbors. I hope you understand what good neighbors we are. I spent decades watching my children walk down from the high school, to get something at the deli or whatever. And so I understand all the commerce and all the thoroughfare on Main Street. There's tons and tons of kids out there every day. And I think we should be concerned about that. I do. So I guess the one other thing that I want to note is that I get the NIMBYism and I feel bad that I'm being so NIMBYistic. Because every time Open Door would go into a new community, people would come out and speak against us because they thought we were a methadone program. We're not a methadone program. Open Door is a doctor's office, it's a mental health office, it's a dentist's office. And we're there for low-income people so that they can pay reduced fees and get really high-quality healthcare. So I have a duty to speak out against this application. I won't even get into the parking. We have a parking lot at 2 Church Street, best thing that's ever happened to us. That's another reason why I wanted that building, because I wanted to make sure that Open Door would always stay in the heart of Ossining. This is where we were founded. This is who we are. And I just feel so strongly that this is just not right for Ossining, and I felt compelled to tell you that.
I appreciate your coming up to speak. I am just gonna make a point, which is, you know, on this board, the planning board, our oversight, our
Jurisdiction, I know.
jurisdiction is
In parking
very limited.
And architectural review, I get it.
So, but that said, your comments are on the record and,
Thank
and we are here to listen to and appreciate and are grateful for the feedback that we get from community members like you.
And I
Thank
also
you.
wanted to add as well, yeah, thank you for your comments. New York State regulates the licensing
Yeah.
of cannabis dispensaries. The applicant has received a license for this location, so the village is precluded from essentially denying the location.
Yes, and I understand the village could be at risk and could expose itself to lawsuits. I understand it. We get sued all the time. And so sometimes you just gotta hunker down, you gotta do the right thing. That's been my motto as, you know, the leader of a not-for-profit organization for 4 decades. Sometimes you gotta do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other folks here who would like to speak to the application?
Yeah.
Say instructions, yeah, name and place of residence and
My name is Alex Chaslow. I live at 38 Stamford Drive. I worked as a contractor at the Open Door for 25 years until the grants expired in September of 2020. We are the only continuously funded prevention coalition by the federal government, SAMHSA, OJJDP, CDC, all sorts of organizations. We are the only community in the county that got a youth bureau created because of the importance of prevention, and the county supported that. I know that the community did not opt out. It was no secret that I wanted us to. I was the person that worked on the resolution that was used statewide for the community to opt out. The only communities that opted in were communities with diversity. Period. That's it. Those are the only communities that opted in. And the fact that we are getting a 4th dispensary on Main Street, no less, where children walk every day from the high school for lunch. I just, with Lindsay, I cannot fathom that. It never went into my reality that it would end up on Main Street. The place in the train station, that's off the beaten track. I visited it today. I also visited Lucky Leaf. He went through great financial hardship to remove a mountain and build a enormous wall to gain 16 parking spaces. I can't believe you're waiving parking stuff. I can't believe you're just, I appreciate that it's too late. I understand. Every village trustee knows how much I fought. Maddie knows personally how much I fought. I was also on the school board for 12 years and I'm on the library for 15 years. So I'm a very big community, parent, children, support Ossining person. And I just don't want to have Main Street. I don't want it. I know that you can't deny it, but I agree with Lindsay. They get sued all the time. And sometimes you just need to do the right thing as well. Main Street, kids from the high school every day, Main Street. I can't believe you're gonna do that 2 doors down from the Open Door. So, thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do, but it's frustrating. And I am hearing in the community that people are upset. They do not want 4 dispensaries. Wasn't there a resolution to limit it to 3?
That's not legal.
It's not legal, okay.
Once you're in, you're out.
How, and I agree with Lindsay, a casino, a liquor store, you don't want that on Main Street where the kids are hanging out and they go for lunch. Only the 9th graders eat lunch in the building. Everybody else goes down Main Street. So please think of kids, think of perception of harm and the normalization of the use. I know that you can't get into it if you're not under 21. But the perception of harm and just the fact that it's there on Main Street. I really implore you to think about the impact of that on the community. And I raised 3 kids in Ossining, all of whom graduated from Ossining High School.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, same comments. I appreciate your feedback and your input here. There's a comment you made a moment ago related to parking. Valerie, maybe you can help explain that.
So.
It's not necessarily something we're deciding.
No, so to make parking a little bit more, so in the past, the village center automatically had like a waiver of parking. And the board revised the parking regulations.
The board of trustees.
The board of trustees, yes, thank you. Revised parking regulations about a year or so ago. That does require now, certain, parking to be provided in the village center. But when you have a change of use from a non-residential to another non-residential use, and you're not increasing the overall square footage of that non-residential use, there is a parking waiver of up to 10 spaces automatically. So this allows for businesses to rotate and kind of come and go as needed in the downtown without having problems with business and economic development. So so in this particular case, it was a retail, it was gonna be a restaurant, and now it's going back to retail. So that's the reason why it falls under that provision.
Thank you for that explanation.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, lots of hands. You can come on up, yeah, and then. And it's yours, the applicant, so.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm a 20-year resident of Ossining, 47 Overton Road. I'm also an employee of Open Door, the Senior Director of Development. I echo what Alice and Lindsay have shared. I've raised my kids in Ossining. I've worked on Main Street. And my significant concerns of the confusion that will be caused by an organization that has dedicated ourselves to wellness, truly to wellness and healing and prevention, to then have the confusion of a space and a business that is counter to the work that we have been doing for a half century. For the youth, for the adults, for people who are struggling, if you walk into our health center and you see the services that we provide, the integration of the mental health, of the substance use treatment, and the work that is so challenging for our patients, this will just create the tremendous challenge and temptation and, quite frankly, set our patients back in many cases. So I just want to get on record. I understand the purview of this board, respect it, just ask that to be taken into consideration when thinking about the messaging on the outside of the building and how it's being communicated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm one or two of the applicants, my partner's here with me. And I'm glad you actually came here tonight because I wasn't aware of Open Door or what you did. I'm sorry, Carlos Corella, one half of Grand Peconic Ventures at 159. We'll be doing business at Screen Panacea at DBA. You know, I understand your concerns about the children. It would be incredibly difficult for anyone who's underage to gain access to our premise. And as we're here to listen to your concerns and to work with any concerns that anyone in the community might have. We're not a shut door operation. We want to be part of the community. We don't want to necessarily be combative. We're working within all the legal confines that the state has empowered us to do so. But at the same time, we're not going to dismiss any of the concerns. I think access by underage clients is not something that is remotely possible. It'll be easier to have a fake ID and go into a bar and get a drink than to actually access any one of the licensed New York City dispensaries, New York State dispensaries. So if any issues arise, we're here to work with you. We're here to make whatever adjustments have to be made. There are strict security protocols that will ensure that that doesn't happen. And one of the conditions that we had when we came here and spoke to the landlord is we do not want people in front of the storefront or in front of the businesses consuming. It is something that we're very, very serious about. Before you leave here, definitely grab my information. Let's work together to assuage some of those concerns. And we'll continue to work with everyone who does have any concerns. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we've heard a lot. Is there anybody else in here that wanted to speak to this application? I can give you 1 minute. I just want to be mindful of time. We do have a long agenda tonight, but 1 minute.
You can speak from there too.
Okay, you know, again, we spend a lot of time worrying about addiction. And really the most commonly abused substance is alcohol. And we have lots of data on that. And so Alice, Elizabeth and I, all of the work that we've done around prevention in the school district, right, is to make sure that young people don't get addicted, because you get addicted when you're a young person, you're gonna have problems later in life that's gonna impact your future trajectory. So I appreciate the comments, but really what we're trying to do is help adults, because the culture is so pervasive. And one of the things that we did in the Ossining schools, you know, again, you don't want kids using, and the good news is that all the work that we've done through the years, we see kids using less. Part of the problem is their parents, because their parents have substance issues at home, and very often, and you know, many of us are parents, they sort of think, oh, it's okay to get, you know, to binge drink and to behave badly, everybody does. But, you know, part of the problem is there's this culture around all of these substances because they're so profitable. So I just wanted to clarify that really, you know, we're trying to help kids, but we're really trying to help families, because it's rough out there, whether it's, you know, tobacco, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cannabis, like all that stuff can mess up your whole life for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about. So thank you.
I appreciate that. So I think just as a matter of, and I want to move this forward in a moment, but you know, we started off talking a little bit about the VAR, the exterior, and you know, this is, I know the state is very strict in terms of regulating signage and how these, you know, how the storefront reads, to the degree that it's, you know, that and I think that the feedback that we're, you know, what we're listening to here, and this is consistent with things I've heard in the community as well, and is, you know, within the confines of the state law, ensuring that that the space, the storefront is not, you know, standing out, that it can be as, you know, discreet and not, you know, designed in a way that's going to be saying, hey guys, come on in here, in that kind of a way. Without, you know, so that's just a thought that I'm maybe just kind of thinking out loud a little bit right now. We are still in a public hearing. I did not ask if there's anybody on Zoom. Has anybody used the hand raise function yet?
Just this very moment.
There is, okay, so,
Okay.
same instructions for Zoom as they are for folks here. If you're, as you're elevated to panel, you, please introduce yourself, your place of residence, and then you can speak.
Okay, Miriam, I see you've joined us as a panelist. If you could unmute and turn on your camera and introduce yourself.
Hello, hi, my name is Mariam Motabar. I live in 52 Old Albany Post Road for the last 25 years. I actually moved from, you know, my country exactly to Ossining, and I'm so happy, you know, to live here for many years. My kids went to Ossining School District, and I landed in Open Door 25 years ago, and I am a VP of operation now, working with Lindsay very closely. And I understand it's legal. I understand all this. My kids are grown, so I wouldn't be here for my own kids, but I really, really, really ask the board that please think about this. I understand this is a legal business. I understand this is, you know, something, you know, they want to happen, but near the health center, that is just so wrong in so many ways. Our patients are vulnerable. We have kids. 90% of our patients are kids and women. It's just not the right thing to do it next to the health center and in the main street. You know, move that somewhere else. My son just graduated from Stony Brook, and they have so many dispensaries near Stony Brook, but I can tell you, I haven't seen one of them as I'm driving back and forth every other week. So this is just not the right place for it. And I'm just asking the board to think this really, truly, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else raising their hand? And just, we can't see the, just, I mean, I don't know if it's something that we can never address, but we will never see the hand raised from our view here.
Yeah, we can work on that. I'm watching it like a hawk.
Okay, no, I trust you entirely, I just, don't really have any sense of it, so, okay, so we've heard a lot of, I think, really good feedback, and I have a motion right now to adjourn, the public hearing on the application.
I'll personally make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Michael Aronson, second.
All right, any objections to that? See none, so the public hearing is adjourned. I think we mentioned a moment ago about referral to the HPC, which I think would be a reasonable next step, because I think that's important.
What is that?
The Historic Preservation Commission, so they will defer some of our VAR, not defer, but we rely on their feedback as a architectural review board. So can I have a motion to refer the application to the HPC?
Richard Klein makes the motion.
Michael Aronson, second.
All right, and any objections to that? There are none. All right, so that referral was made, and I think that there's been, between the feedback that we've heard from the almost exclusively from our many neighbors at Open Door, which we're grateful to seeing you guys here today. Plus, I think there was a long list, that Valerie brought up related to the site plan and a lot of these comments, which relate back to the revised, village law, the flex changes in state law. So getting all of that together, getting the feedback from the HPC in order to kind of see where this goes, how this moves forward. All right. You're clear, JB. Maybe just to Karen, Valerie, anything that we didn't touch on that we should. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn this application.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll question second.
All right, any objections to that? There are none. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody who came in. Okay, so we're gonna move this along.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
To be on board.
Thank you. Okay, so we have planning board 02/2026. This is 229 Spring, and this is a application for the approval of the subdivision that was granted in 2025. This was granted last week, but I guess it wasn't. So we just put up the drawings, and I think what I'll do here is if we get the subdivision plan up on here. Maybe I know this was reviewed by this board and by the ZBA in 2025, probably starting in 2024, maybe. Has anything changed about the plan since we last saw
Nothing has changed. What happened is that we have in order to secure all the minors, sign off from the health department. That took more than expected, and that the time ended up elapsing. So we do have all those signatures from county and all the approvals here.
Okay,
Which is we're doing the same.
got it. Any issues either to you, Darren? All right. Okay, can I have a motion to open, board members, any questions? I think we've all been here. Motion to open the public hearing on this application. All right, any objections to that? We're in public hearing. Is there anybody in this room who's here to speak to this application? Do not see anybody. Is there anybody on Zoom who's here to speak to this application? You can use the hand raise function. And there is nobody here on Zoom. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Michael Aronson, motion to close the public hearing. And Nelson, second.
Okay, we had the site plan up a moment ago. Just want to make sure that we're just putting it up here for the record. We're looking at it, and just a reminder. I know it was up for a fleeting moment, but yeah. So just really, there's two lots. This was a flag shaped lot that was subdivided, right? And there was also there's a VAR doesn't expect to expire, but there was also a VAR approval for a single family house on lot 2, correct?
Right.
And lot 1 was an existing dwelling. It was just a subdivision. It received variances. Okay. Those variances those don't expire, right? So those are.
If the plat is recorded by July, you won't get an extension.
Okay.
So there's your clock. July is tomorrow. So.
So I have, remember bring mine?
Yeah, I'm here, right? Okay, so can I have, are there any questions after looking at that from the board? Can I have a motion to, approve the request for the reapproval?
Should I have motion to approve?
Polly Christensen.
And we'll do a roll call.
Pam Nelson. Polly Burton. Michael Aronson. Richard Klein. And Sarah Roy.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Katie. Okay, so moving along, next up on our agenda is so it's item E, planning board 08/2026, VAR 07/2026, and what the address, the 159 161 Frozen Avenue. Applicant is seeking site plan, conditional use, and VAR approvals to renovate another existing two-story vacant mixed-use building. So see, we have someone here to speak. You can introduce yourself and we'll walk through the part.
In the chair, members of the board, my name is Brian Sinsbaum, and Sarah Steinmetz on behalf of the applicant. So I just want to introduce the project, give you some initial feedback from the board. I did see that we did receive a memo from NPV. So I'll go over that briefly. But as I mentioned, the applications we're seeking here are conditional use for 2 second-floor dwelling units in the NC2 district. VR review with regard to exterior renovations, as well as amended site plan dealing with some other improvements throughout the site, such as the parking. This also requires ZBA variances as well, so there are 2 different variances that we need on that. One dealing with dwelling unit size, another with impervious surface coverage. So this property is currently vacant. The first floor previously the Groton Main Market and Deli, as well as a restaurant. The second floor is residential dwelling. The applicant is looking to simply renovate the building. He wants to continue the mixed use. The mixed use will continue on the site. However, what we're looking to propose is office and retail, something similar to what the deli is, or the deli previously was on the site. Second floor, we would have 2 residential dwelling units, which all these uses are permitted either as of right or by conditional use. The facade, there's numerous improvements to the facade. The building will remain, but we're looking to put on new shutters, replace awnings, replace doors, new brass lanterns along the facade, cleaning and painting of the brick, cleaning of the sidewalk, and then additional gridding or like window painting for the windows that are along the frontage. We also propose to improve off-street parking, which is currently at 10 spaces, increasing it to 14 spaces. However, that does justify a variance, or not justify, but require a variance for increase impervious surface area. I did receive the, as I mentioned, the Nelson Public Authorities memo dated May 22nd. We will make some amendments to the site plan drawings based upon that memo. Also take a look at the parking. I did see a mention of evaluating some of the parking options that we do have available to us. I don't know if it's particularly pertaining to combined parking as one of the requirements that we could have to reduce the impervious surface coverage, but we will look into that as well.
Okay, I'm actually gonna we're talking about parking, Taryn, I don't know if you can maybe just shed some light to the board.
Yeah, of course.
Related to parking and the multiple lots, that I guess there's multiple lots related to this one structure.
Right, so on this application, the building's on one tax lot, parking on another tax lot, so code permits that, but you have to have some sort of agreement or a merger of the properties that essentially binds the parking to the building or the use that it's serving. We did receive a copy of an agreement, however, it's a 10-year term, we're looking for 1 additional 10-year term at the option of the grandfather grantee. Need something a little more permanent than that. The code is 278-3010. It provides more concrete language that should be used, basically that the spaces are available in perpetuity of the use. So if you could provide just like a draft, either either lease or a permanent easement or a merging the two or three parties, if you want to do this together.
So yeah, that was an agreement that was provided by the applicant, so we'll take a harder look at it. And we'll work with you as to what you're looking for.
Right, thank you.
Also, I just want to note, like, depending on how you deal with that rear property that's vacant, will determine about some of your setbacks.
Okay.
So you probably need to also take a look at that or make a decision on how you're dealing with that.
Yeah, I believe the applicant would like to keep that, it is in a different zone, I believe. So he's looking to keep that separate. I forget what the road is that's on the rear. That's
Is
it.
it in a different zone or is
I don't-
it adjacent to
Right,
a
I think
different?
it's adjacent to a different zone.
I'll take a look, yeah.
Is there access off the back?
No, that's, I used to live there, so it's Park Avenue.
Oh, is there parking?
No, there's no access to it, that's, it butts to that street. The access is something.
You touched on this a little bit, but just from a, this is a VAR application as well. As far as any changes, is this still restorative or are there any changes that you're proposing?
I think like if you're looking at changes, it is restorative in some instances, so you have the awnings that are being replaced, doors that are being replaced. But I think like the gridding or the paneling, I'm not sure how you wanna state that in terms of the larger windows we have, making the appearance that there are smaller panels within that. That's something that's, I guess, new. Shuttering might be new as well. But there's also a proposed secondary door, I think that may be somewhat new for what was previously the restaurant, so the left side of the.
Sorry, can you just put those up here? 'Cause
I'm trying to spin around here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, one of the things my memo pointed out, there's a lot of things on the, plan that say they're proposing, new, if you're proposing revisions, upgrades to it, so restoration, so all that.
I think we also have to provide you a material list as well.
Yeah.
It's just-
Yeah, I think, yes, the parking. But clarity architecturally, I think is real, I mean, it's obviously critical for our review here. The parking issue, which was outlined, I know that Valerie, from your memo, are there other pieces, like kind of more critical pieces that the board need to be attending to that we haven't brought up?
No, just, I mean, really, it was just the architecture and the parking for the most part, and then the finalizing the step backs. So.
Right, and then those will determine the ZBA referral, which will come at some point.
Right.
Okay. And this is type 2, as far as there's no, right, so there's no further secret evaluation. Okay, so, couples, first of all, questions, with feedback from the board. We have a motion to open the public hearing on this application.
Michael Aronson, motion to open the public hearing.
Richard Klein, second.
Anybody in this room who's here to speak to this application today? You have one, we have a couple. All right, so again, same instructions. Robert, welcome. You can introduce yourself, place of residence, and then you can speak to the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually here to speak about another application, but when I met this young couple here, I've been in Ossining for, since 1959. I was younger then. And I'm very happy to see this couple turn what has been a long-standing eyesore. I just couldn't believe it. I went by there thousands of times. I couldn't believe that no one, I figured somebody must have died. It must be quite complex. But they remind me, they have the same optimism I had when I first came to town. And I think it's, I agree with all of your comments in terms of what still needs to be added to this application. But I just want to say, as an Ossining resident at 36 South Island Avenue, which is, is a squire house listed on the National Register and the State Register, I'm very much in favor of this couple doing what they're already asking to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we hear the applicant actually?
I'm the applicant. Yeah, I just want to introduce myself and,
Yeah, and your name and place of residence.
oh, Robert, 205 Barn Street, Austin, New York. Yeah, I just want to introduce myself and propose, obviously, as gentleman was saying, it's been run down for so long. I mean, we want to get this going and really turn around and, make a nice, improvements to Austin. And I think, me and my attorney definitely absorb the information you gave us, and hopefully we come back the next meeting and everything will be resolved.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the room speak to this? Is there anybody on Zoom? You can use the hand raise function, and Maddie is shaking her head. No, which you can see because we can see everybody. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
First, the motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Michael Aaron's in second.
Okay. So before we leave, just, I guess really Valerie's turn, and you need questions that we didn't ask, I think we're good. I'll ask the applicant, you guys clear on the feedback you received from us and from the village professionals? You guys are good? Yeah, sure. I have a motion to adjourn the application.
Michael Aaron's a motion to adjourn the application.
Which line second?
All right, any objections to that? See any? So, thank you guys very much, and, we'll see you back here.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we are up to part 3 of our agenda. Continuing business, we've made it out of new business. I'm not gonna say anything. I am not, let's seal. So we had, first off, right now, we have 34 State Street. So I think we're all, we can follow in this. I'll let the applicant kind of just kind of give us an update on where you are. And then I think we'll probably spend our kind of meeting time today talking about seeker. I know that the board has had a chance to review a draft negative declaration. So.
She's on Zoom. Should I bring her over? Oh, yeah. Okay.
You're bringing.
Dawn McKenzie, just posted to this application team,
Okay.
just raised her hand and then put it down and use it again.
So good evening, Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Janet Garris. I'm a partner with Del Bello, Donnell and Weingarten in West Woodford here this evening on behalf of the applicant. Happy to be here. Excited for you that there's so much new business. Who's paying tonight's bill is not. So thank you for having us. As you know, when we were before you last month, we had addressed your comments to the point where you authorized the preparation of a negative declaration of environmental significance. I know your consultant has prepared that. We've had an opportunity to take a look at that. From a substantive perspective, we didn't have any real substantive comments or issues with that. There are a few hiccups, but you know, in terms of spelling and other things. So we did respond. There was a little bit of additional information that you had asked for your consultant to be able to prepare that. We did provide that. And then I think we're here this evening to ask that you consider that negative declaration in the resolution, and we're here to answer questions. We do know we still have additional work to do with you after tonight, but we are hopeful that you will consider that negative declaration. One more thing to update you, we have been to the zoning board. Obviously, they can't take action on our application before them is adopted, but we have been before them. Things were received, I would say, very well, and we'll be back before them shortly as well.
Great, thank you. So I guess as a next item, maybe we can put the draft deck up on the screen. And maybe, I think Valerie can help walk us through this, but I hopefully we've all had a chance to take a look. One of the things that may be a good starting point on this is the table that was added into here, which kind of talks about the fact that there was a previously approved application on this site, and this was kind of a nice comparative analysis of the two different projects, kind of
Yes, so
the scale.
This table came from the part 3 that the applicant originally provided back when it submitted the part 3 on the very first iteration of the site plan. And it also was updated based upon the newer site plan that has been submitted for this application. What I mean is that the changes would be parking garage. And then I also updated it based upon recent discussions.
Okay.
So I can just kind of walk through I know the applicant sent a couple of edits to the neg deck that I can incorporate. None of them were substantive, they were just more accuracy information. And then they pointed out a couple minor errors in terms of typing and stuff like that. So I will work that in as well. And so thank you for that. The last minute, I feel like there was a lot, we should see all the emails that I got. So this was a lot of emails, but all right, so Hudson staff, just so we'll just run through this. Residential units, the original 2000 Hudson staff, which is the original project, had 188 units. This project is proposing 150 units. I think you're familiar with the project, 100 units of affordable and 50 units market rate. In terms of bedroom counts, the original bedroom count was 297 units, and now they're proposing 240 units, so there's 57 fewer bedrooms. In terms of parking counts, again, the original proposal had 231 spaces in subsurface, 244 were total were required. And in this particular application,
We just.
in this particular application, the applicant is proposing 196 subsurface garage spaces for a total of 283 units. I mean, excuse me, 283 total parking spaces, 268 is required. While this is more spaces than the prior one, at this point in time, the overall project itself, it still works with the project. So we don't really see this as a significant negative adverse impact. And that's really the key when in determining the significance, is that if there are, all projects have some sort of impact, but are they being mitigated as much as possible in terms of the site plan? And then ultimately will it be a significant adverse impact? In terms of interior spaces and exterior amenities, I think we've talked about this, and there's still additional finalization in terms of the site plan, but basically that they're proposing to have shared amenity spaces, pool, courtyard landscaping, a potential new park on Hunter Street, and then also a potential pocket park. I'm sorry, I just saw an error. They're not proposing a new park on Hunter Street, they're proposing a potential pocket park on Hunter Street with historical signage. 6 new parking spaces as a potential, as well as an adjacent sidewalk on Hunter Street and potential additional active recreation space for residents on site. There's also, in terms of the green building, that they are proposing to have they're proposing to have brownfields cleanup, as well as Energy Star multifamily new construction. They are also for the Smith Robinson House. This is one of the biggest differences. Originally, the plan was to preserve the Smith Robinson House, but because of the deterioration, they are proposing to preserve the first 15 feet of the front elevation. And I think the applicant has submitted enough documentation demonstrating that this is, in effect, that is the information is correct and it has deteriorated quite significantly. In terms of park and open space, the applicant is proposing a pocket park along Hunter Street and potential additional active recreation for space for the residents, as well as they're also proposing active recreation on site in terms of seating and other congregation areas in terms of lawns and tables and picnic tables and the pool area. Also in terms of site access, 3 access points, but the primary access will be off of State Street. In terms of area disturbance, it will be less than the proposed than the original project. The applicant is proposing 4.6 acres of disturbance, but the original one was 5.8 acres. In terms of impervious coverage, there will be a little bit less impervious coverage with this, but it's only 0.2 acres compared to the original one, and that's because of the change in the parking, right, the surface parking. The applicant is also proposing, they're also proposing stormwater management, and I think that is, there's really for comparison from one project to another project, that they are incorporating the stormwater, management and best practices. Water demand will be less because of the decrease in overall units. Same with sanitary. The traffic and trip generation will be less because of the overall unit count. And population will be less, and the school age kids will also be less. So overall, in general, there's less impacts associated with this project, and I think we've been reviewing the engineering, the applicant provided a lot of information in terms of engineering, what we're dealing with the hazard mitigation, in terms of landscaping, in terms of site amenities. So at this point in time, I think, there still are some details to be worked out for a site plan approval. But for the most part, in terms of environmental impact for this project, I think the applicant provided all the necessary requirements.
Can we maybe put just up the updated site plan, or maybe the most up-to-date site plan up on the screen? I think that might be helpful to see as we're sort of talking about that. Because I think kind of what you're saying, Valerie, is as the site plan is fine-tuned and worked out, that the kinds of changes that might evolve between now and final site plan approval aren't gonna have any meaningful impact on the environmental review. That the prior plan is maybe the better one, the color rendered. No, there's, I don't know if we need to get into any details of where, maybe we can just touch a little bit on where things are developing, because I don't know they're all necessarily reflected in drawing here.
So I think that there's a few remaining items that we're still dealing with. Is that what you want me to run through?
Yeah.
So in terms of, I think, Tony, do you have any outstanding items that you're still remaining?
We sat with the village fire department, they're pretty satisfied on the layout and how the traffic flow is. Sat with the water department on how they want the water main, so I don't foresee anything like that.
Right.
So I think in terms of the final, so one will be the hazard mitigation cleanup, that's still in process with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
Right.
They were doing some additional testing on that site, so, ultimately, that information will be coming forth and will be part of like the building. And also part of the overall like cleanup process and building. In terms of landscaping and recreation, the last two items that I have on my list that was still outstanding. And I believe the applicant is looking at potentially having more active recreation space or leveling out that front lawn area State Street and then putting a little bit of landscaping in to really, an area for people to work, for things to be able to get into and
which would be consistent with the fire department access.
exactly. It's slow, but maybe expand that a little bit more and then be able to provide it over the again, as opposed to having just slow.
Right.
And then the landscaping, this is really dealing with tree removal and it's responding to the current, the new tree law versus, what it is that they're proposing to put in and then the gap between what they might have to pay and be in lieu of. So we're still working out the details of that.
So paying versus replanting or. But either way, it'll be one or the other. So from an environmental perspective, it's being addressed.
That's correct.
The means of that. So related to the neg deck, any questions or thoughts or feedback from the board? Yeah, I think it was it was a well thought out document. I know we've been talking about it and contributing, weighing in on these different components for the last several months now. So I feel like we're in a good place with that. So I think procedurally at this point, I would like to ask for there are no other questions or thoughts from the board. A motion to reopen the public hearing application.
First by motion to reopen.
There's a second.
Okay, so I'd like to ask, is there anybody here to speak to this application today? You see? Right.
Good evening, for the record, my name is Mark Fry. I live at Squire House National nationally listed property that's just down the street, 36 South Island Avenue. I dealt out one of my two business cards to each of you in order to make a couple of points. The first is, that I've spent the last 30 years in project management consulting for historic restoration and adaptive reuse. Really what I live for. And on this card, you see a rendering by a famous renderer of the first project I did in Tarrytown. What I should have on this calling card is the Lincoln School, which I worked with Michael Barabash and Alex Dreiser, God rest his soul, to convert Lincoln School, built in 1858, into the 13 condominiums that are there today. Some of you know it as 88 Broadway. And it had already been bastardized in terms of stucco and so forth. The brackets had been ripped off, but by doing what we did, we gave that building collectively another 100 years of life. Some of you may not know, it was the first school in the United States of America named Lincoln School as part of the Grand Army of the Republic's campaign to have one school in every municipality in America named after the late, great President Lincoln, who was here in Ossining twice. Once at a whistle stop, and those of you who have seen the fantastic photos, his funeral cortege train came to Ossining. So we have a lot of history here to be proud of. Certainly the Smith Robinson House, which is being adaptively reused and partially restored here. I applaud Mr. Balter, Mr. Wendling, Mr. Hahn, Ms. Garris, all that team to take on a difficult job. I first saw this building as a guest of Daniel Beaton, who bought the property probably 20 years ago, just as Printex closed. Some of you might remember the famous Vera designs. Well, at that time, the building was in excellent condition. The Smith Robinson House could have been restored. The subsequent owner did an absolutely terrible job, and we've watched demolition by neglect. Thank goodness, Mr. Balter and his team are stepping up to the plate to preserve what can still be rescued. And that's to say the entire front facade of the building and the 15-foot wing walls. Not only, but I understand it is their plan to restore some of the original rooms in that front section. The rear will be an adaptive reuse. There will be pass-through hallways from the 100-unit condominiums on the left to the 50-unit rental building on the right. I'm pleased also to see that the amenities will be shared. It'll be a multi-income property. There are one or two comments I'll have on architecture, but I won't do that now. I'll with the good grace of Mr. Wendling here, I'll present those to his team. I'd like to take off my hat, that hat, and put on the other hat, Main Street Consulting. In that hat, I write enormous environmental impact statements, analyze impact statements. I think this job has done a superlative board, and certainly Ms. Menastra and her compatriot, Danielle Dreyer, have done a superlative job in giving this a very, very hard look. You know, the hard look under SECRA requires you to drill down. I can see you've gone through 93 documents on this application. I've read some of them, you've read them all, but I think this board is to be congratulated for the extraordinarily hard look you gave to this extraordinarily important property. So I thank you for all of your hard work on this, and and a fellow professional, or for what it's worth, I would say that this application warmly has earned a negative declaration from this board. I look forward to continuing the process when we go to the local site plan approval. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. All right, thank you. Anybody else here to speak tonight to the application? Don't see anybody on Zoom?
No one who's not from the applicant.
Okay. I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Person will make a motion to adjourn. There.
Okay. Any second? Just take it for that, but, any objections to that? I don't see any. Public hearing is adjourned. So I think the order of business, I guess before we kind of move forward with that, Valerie, Tony, we're good in terms of your comments getting out there, and Valerie, you did a long presentation. Aaron, anything that we should be thinking about before we move towards with a negative declaration on this? I think, everything that was just said speaks for itself. Can I have a motion from the board to approve the negative declaration?
Chair Klein, motion to approve.
Michael Aronson, second.
All right, and we're going to do a roll call.
Okay. Everyone else, and I, Holly Thurston, I, Michael Aronson, I, Richard Klein, and Chair.
Very good. So that's first hurdle, I think, actually on this one. So that's good. So I think you guys at this point, as far as I guess with the negative deck passed, can this go? Do you need to make any referrals, or this is already for other boards? All right, so you guys are good. Any questions? You good?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks the motion from the board to adjourn the application.
Mike.
Any objection? We'll let them make their way out. The noise might be distracting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Lots of pages on that.
That's it, too cheap for, but not.
Yeah, let me just call it. We're all on record. Thank you. VAR, so next up is item B on continuing business, VAR 23-2025 for 59 Dale Avenue. And so I think actually this is, we saw this a few months back. This is a VAR application for the reconstructing, renovating and altering the storage.
It's a repair.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the last time we were here, we kind of touched on a couple of different points. I think number one was looking at, the rendering, how this structure will read, because it is being made taller, how will it be in adjacent properties. I think that was one point of feedback. The other feedback that the board gave was kind of more of a request of how finding an option or a study for how that may be accommodated with less of a steep pitch. Again, the purpose being, as a VAR, we have purview over scale, and just looking at these existing structures and trying to limit, regardless of the I guess prior, this was, let me just take a step back. These structures, and I'm gonna ask you to help me for a second, Taryn, but these were, this was originally an existing non-conforming use. And I guess was it a zoning interpretation or?
Yeah, so. Appeals for determination, this is a legally non use, which the ZBA agreed. So there's a bunch of conditions associated with that, but the use is permitted.
Right.
And asked us to do two things.
Yeah.
Lower the pitch a little bit.
Yep.
Which we did, and also try to show you a view.
From your neighbor's property.
Which we did on both of these.
So let's put that up. I mean, that's where we should be talking.
Do you want to guide me to someplace in particular that you?
No, sir.
That was it, you had it.
Okay, I had it.
Yeah, that shows the lowering of the.
Yeah, this shows the lowering of the pitch.
I don't know if you had the original plan, that was much higher.
Yeah.
And if you can go down where you were, go there.
That's, yeah.
That shows,
the best we could from the upper,
Because we could not go on the property.
couldn't go on the
So
property.
that was the
take
best,
pictures.
you know, we did from our architect did, you know, drone use and all of that stuff.
So
Right now it's
maybe
flat.
just help us understand what we're looking at.
Down on the right,
Okay, if you're facing the property, you're having a view from there's another piece of property between me and the resident that was complaining, okay? And that's where we try to get you the view from.
Dale Avenue's to our left.
Yes.
Yes.
The line is to your left, right? So this is I guess it's the west side.
and that area that she was a little, she's higher. So that was the best view we could
There's
get.
also no trees there, nothing, but there's plenty of trees in between. There used to be a big oak tree right in the middle of the neighbor's property,
He took it down.
which they took it down, which exposed the roof. Now, I don't know if you look at the pictures that we have right now, you're gonna see the comparison of what it's gonna look like and what it is right now. So all I'm trying to do is improve the neighborhood
Well,
and try to match it to the house that we have.
there's two issues here. The roof needs to be repaired. It's a flat roof. It doesn't drain properly. It's just not, it doesn't make any sense. So the pitch for drainage was important. And all, that's what it looks like. And also, we came to the Board of Architectural Review, tried to put pitch that would match the existing 3-car garage, which is over to the right of this picture, and the house. Rather than, right,
Trying to make it look something.
it will be the same color siding with the same color roof, a black roof and white trim.
Okay, we just, one other thing, which is just go to the street view again, just at the board, because I think there's a few people here who weren't here last time.
30 seconds.
30 here.
Count down.
I've got a clock up
Count
there
down.
now, so I got this, this time of the day. I tell you, I'm especially on. That was
Done.
much less than 30 seconds. It's like 9.
Okay, right.
We're gonna turn around.
Left, yeah, the other way.
It's on the north side of Dale, right?
Hold on, not too far.
Turn.
I'm down that driveway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Bill, it's hard to maneuver.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, so it is.
That's it there, yeah.
You don't see it, it's behind all the trees, really.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
you
down
point it
back.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
It's behind the greenery as well. Can I just move those green?
Yeah.
Got it.
Do you like an aerial? Would that be?
Yes.
What do you mean offering things? I have no idea. How am I here? John Street, not even close.
If you were where you were.
Click the aerial. Go back to the Google map.
Yeah.
See in the
Layers.
Mhm.
Just click on the satellite, it's the big square. All in.
Oh, that is Dale. I'm taking some.
John Street's are going this.
John. Technology. So here's Dale, right, and then the driveway we're just looking at is.
That's the yard, and the units in the back there.
Those-
Actually, you're seeing all the flat roof right now.
Yeah, that's the
Got it. Okay. Understood. Okay, so, and I think that the rendering was originally from the property,
That way.
okay,
Mhm. That's the best we could
okay, got it,
figure.
The tall building.
yeah. All right, so, and again, so as far as just like looking at this from a VAR perspective, I guess to the degree, I don't know, have there been any determinations related to zoning and volume?
Yeah, so, I spoke with the Building Corporation Council and also spoke with Joe, and we determined if there's a pathway forward for this to proceed without needing a variance from the ZBA.
Okay.
So Joe, if you wanna just elaborate on, I guess, your determination? Just for the record.
I would say that what they're proposing to do is considered a maintenance of the existing building. That the pitch of the roof is really just to protect the building from damage from rainwater. I don't see it as much of an increase of the size. Um, it's not expanding in the width or the length of it, just the pitch of the roof. So to me, it's a repair.
All right. Board member questions? No. I think that was the issue. That was a major issue that kind of got us hung up. Can I have a motion to reopen the public hearing on the application?
Richard, my motion to reopen.
Holly first and second.
Objections? There are none. Is there anybody here today to speak to this application? No. Is there anybody on Zoom? And again, Maddie is shaking her head. All right, so based on what we've seen, sounds like, are there any objections to the board in terms of just the roof repair and siding repair matching the existing 3-bay garage? And, okay, so can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Holly first and I make motion first one here. And Wilson second.
Okay, any objections to that? I don't see any. Public hearing is closed. I don't think I think we have materials, we have drawings, we have size, we have to go to rendering from the neighbor's property. And an opinion from the building plan examiner, defining this clearly as a maintenance operation and repair to the roof and pitch. I have a motion to approve the VAR application.
Richard, my motion to approve.
All right, we'll do a roll call.
Kevin Nelson. Aye. Holly Thurston. Aye. Michael Aronson. Aye. Richard Klein. And Chair Roy.
Aye. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I know you guys have a tough
I just for all the, I always give just the instructions, Joe will be issuing a permit once we have the, the whole.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, good luck. All right, so next up, we have, we're gonna look at 209 to 211 Main Street. So just a reminder, this is site plan conditional use, payment in lieu, VAR approvals, all in support of the new mixed use building. All right, so and just as a real question, so the poster that we have here, is this something that was part of our?
It was not.
It was not, okay.
It was not. It's just, this is just a color rendering.
Okay.
I do have the drawings that were produced as part of
I
it.
think for informational purposes, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Just please submit a copy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so welcome and can you kind of give us an update as to where this.
Chairman Roy, members of the board, good evening today. How are you? Again, Bob Stanziel, architect for the project. When we, I guess we were here last in February, you had requested, before we really went with any further with any other boards, that we go back to the village board just to update them with respect to the easements we were requesting. That we were proposing to go out through the back of the building to the parking lot for the storm floor as well as the sanitary sewer. So we did have a conversation with them about their inputs, and they did agree to allow us to run the storm sewer through the rear, but not the sanitary sewer. So Richard Cordone is here with us, introducing from John Mark Consulting, and the engineering plans were revised to now show the sanitary sewer as well as our water connection going out to Main Street, up to Route 9 on the front of the building. Change in what we brought back to the building is the change in the engineering plan just to reflect that. There was other conversations that Rich had with town engineer, which is going to go into that more specifically, but that's where we are with respect to updates.
Okay, I think it would be helpful to get maybe some feedback, because I know there's a lot of outstanding comments related to parking, related to structural and potential neighbor impact and underpinning. I know maybe Tony.
So we did meet with the applicant's engineer and the DPW. We discussed some of the revisions, as they mentioned, taking the sewer out the front, water to the front, studied out dealing with any easements. I don't know if you remember the prior plan, they were going through the village's wall. We were concerned about that. So the applicant did submit a plan which shows a lot of the improvements to the parking lot as requested by the DPW. Thank you for that. I'm still, I gotta sit down with Paul and discuss the new plan. But, aside from that, I'm just wondering, like, where are you guys at now with, you making your health department submissions, the DOT submissions, those are gonna be good timing, gonna be.
so
And another big element that we do wanna see, which I think is gonna affect the project in a big way, is to start seeing some of these, shoring, how the protection of the adjacent building is gonna be done, all these structural components, a lot of this is a project that's gonna require, a good look at all that.
Yeah, that's fully understood. We sort of have I guess it's not an issue, but chicken and egg thing situation, because it's a big investment on our part to go forward with that, with our engineer to do all that work. And I guess, I don't know if we do that, we still have to go before the village board to request the parking spaces that we need for this project, which we're not sure hopefully we're gonna work out with them. So I don't know what comes first. Do we try to secure those parking spaces first, so we know we have a project before we invest the money doing all the engineering work? Or what? I mean, it's up to the board,
I also think you have a zoning board variances too.
I understand, and we'd like to go forward with it.
With the parking as well.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we need to go forward with the zoning board. I know the board didn't want us to go, the planning board did not want us to go forward with them yet until we had met again with village board to get their input on this sewer issue. We also have to go back to the environmental advisory council and also get a final approval from the historic preservation committee as well. So we're
right. And I mean, I think the parking is obviously going to be a key issue here. And I know that there's been some feedback, my understanding is that there was, some preliminary conversation, at least when you were with DOT. I think that's something you guys have to kind of grapple with and really understand, how that's going to work. I think, ever since the two-tier parking was removed from the project, and we haven't really seen any other any other changes or additions or adjustments to the scope of work, whether that's, potential reduction for parking need, to make it more in compliance, but just kind of grappling kind of overall with that, with the parking issue. Obviously the issues that Tony laid out there, kind of having, like, I think you're almost kind of asking for us the same questions that we're asking of you, which is.
Understood.
Yeah, right, so like we need to have something that's a little bit more resolved before we can kind of feel, warm and fuzzy about it.
if I may, with regard to the parking, that's gonna be a great issue. That's gonna be a matter that's gonna be the decision whether or not, the Board of Trustees is going to agree to this, as to whether or not they're gonna accept the payment in lieu of parking versus something else. As far as underpinning this building or anything that's associated with it, these are technical issues that are gonna be, this is something that there's a way for us to get past that is not going to be somebody's opinion or at somebody's whim. That's kind of a black and white issue, that there is an engineer that's gonna be able to go out there and they're gonna be able to design some kind of underpinning system for this building, or at least adjust the foundation plans or structural plan to have a building over here that's gonna be something that's feasible. So that's kind of where we are with that. So we really do, we understand the gravity of the technical issues, because they are very important, be it the construction logistics as well as how to actually, construct this. So I don't wanna say that that's not important. However, we do need to get some kind of feedback from the village as to whether or not they're going to be willing to work with us on the parking.
So, I mean, that's a different kind of question. That's a procedural question. I don't know if, who I really should be directing, maybe Valerie.
Right, I mean, I think there's one other item, like, while engineering wise, you can do that. At some point, there becomes a cost factor, right?
Absolutely.
Associated with like what is actually required versus what you're proposing to build. So I also think, that's part of the reason why we're raising that as well, is that those investigations probably need to done, because what if it ends up being something that's very complicated? You're looking for 16 units, right? So there is that. We will have to probably talk internally to figure out how to deal with the parking, because technically the payment of parking, it's supposed to be done on seekers complete. And, you know, and the board, while the board heard the application, they can't really make a final decision on that. And this is, I think, a very unique situation because they're asking for so many spaces. Right.
That's a lot of spaces, and I mean, that's kind of why I made that comment before, which is, you know. And I just think this is something that we're starting to see, which is, you know, what is the project, what is the parking need? And if that, you know, if that need is so overwhelming, we can't vote on seeker, we can't have a negative declaration on a project where we don't know how it's gonna fit all the cars that it doesn't fit, you know, so.
I know it goes around and around.
Well, and I think also the ZBA variant, one of them is where you're proposing to put the unit, right? But technically, if they don't give you that, then that would reduce your overall
Understood.
park.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'd like to go forward with that, but I know the board didn't want us to go forward. Planning board didn't want us to go forward.
We need a path, we need a path forward here, I think that's, am I right about? You know, we need a way that we.
To check some of these boxes off, I think.
I mean, a ZBA,
Just certainly.
we can't do a ZBA referral without a seeker, but I mean, is there a, I mean,
This was already.
it was,
They can certainly go to the ZBA for feedback.
that's what I was gonna say.
This has been gone before, just.
Right, just to test the water, and I'm just gonna see where they might stand on some of those issues. Yeah,
I know one other thing, the improvements that they are doing in the parking lot is adding 2 spaces.
okay.
I know it's not that big of a number, but.
No, but like those, like right now, this is kind of like scrimping together between, you know, whether it's like reducing something by a few square feet or whatever it is, or, you know, by, you know, bedrooms in order to get this. To, you know, get, you know, move it, you know, add parking, reduce need to get to a point where there's like some sort of a sweet spot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we did look at reducing bedrooms, but I think, you know, overall, I just think we eliminated like 3 parking spaces. So by cutting it down to 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom. So, I mean, I'll look at that again. So,
Right, but eliminating 3 and adding 2, I mean, that's,
I know
the
that
delta of 5 is a
less,
significant percentage of what you were asking.
that's down, certainly. Right.
Um,
But yeah, if we go to the zoning board just to get some feedback from them, at least that would help us.
any objections from the board on that? I think that's straightforward. I think that would be something we can endorse.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so.
So again, I'm sorry, Jim.
Go.
Again, going to the village board, for the request of the parking spaces would be when procedurally, we couldn't do that.
After secret, right?
Declare.
Well, I mean, the idea is that everyone is comfortable with this particular, the application of the site plan, right? And at this point, I think there's a lot of unknowns, especially getting the feedback from the ZBA. And I think, you know, the village board, you know, they expressed some concerns with the amount of the payment of the parking that would be required, the amount of spaces. And, you know, and then they expressed concerns with the utilities, so at least that has been taken care of, but they definitely, you know, did raise concern with the overall project and lack of parking, but.
But I think that, like, even just in that conversation we had right now, kind of looking at that give and take, if you're, you know, last time we were here, we were sitting talking about 17 spaces. If we're now really talking about 12 instead of 17, that's a really big difference. And that's something that we as a board may say, look, they're adding parking, they've reduced the need, this isn't a reasonable space where we may feel like the, you know, environmental, you know, impact is more manageable and absorbable, and something where you may say, this seems like something we could go to the board of trustees.
We did the parking analysis. So
We didn't submit the parking analysis, we can submit the parking analysis.
Yeah, we did have.
What we did do is we did some parking counts to see what the occupancy was and the usage was of this lot as well as the lot that's across the street over here, and to see what kind of availability there was. It proved to be a significant availability. We also explored the idea of, you know, shared parking, but we need to really get a feel for how we're gonna handle, you know, shared parking as to whether or not we can, how we can allocate those spaces and make that happen. But, you know, it is worth, I can't, not bring up the fact that, the village is constructing the municipal parking lot that's just adjacent to the site with a significant amount of I don't wanna say available, but there's a significant amount of spaces. And the board of trustees did bring that up, and they did state, when we did speak to them about it, they made sure to mention that there was, a significant amount of parking spaces that may be available with the construction of that.
But the parking garage was not taken into consideration in that.
That parking garage was not taken into consideration when we did do our parking study.
Yeah, so.
I would actually just to chime in on that, I think we should probably talk about, since we haven't seen it yet, that parking analysis, perhaps maybe choosing some different areas to study, because I think the parking lots across the street would not be something that you want to include in the development here, so you might want to look in the other direction. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the parking lots across the street,
I think the parking lot across the street that
the red.
you're referring to is the two that are at the community center.
Yeah.
So the upper
Right.
lot, which is mainly staff, the
Right.
lower lot, which is for people who are using the community center.
Yeah.
So I would not necessarily bank on.
I believe it was municipal lot 3, and it's identified as the municipal lot.
I understand that, but also as we do renovations to the community center, I'm trying to give you a glimpse at what may be forthcoming.
Right.
So I don't think that it's the intention of the board of trustees at this point to have long-term parking in either of those parking lots.
Okay.
But I think maybe we're kind of defining where you guys need to be.
Yeah, no.
That's
what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's what we need to move the ball forward, because right now we're spinning wheels. So just to give you guys a quick heads up and an idea of where we, the last time we presented this plan, essentially, everything from this building back, we really weren't doing much of anything. Since then, as Anthony spoke, we did meet with the village engineer and DPW. We looked at this parking lot. What we're proposing to do here is we're proposing to, instead of previously make some connections out here for stormwater, we are proposing to reconstruction of some existing infrastructure within this parking lot, full deck pavement. And we're also gonna be doing a mill and resurface over this lot, as well as restriping it to kind of bring it up to today's standards as far as uniform parking space sizes. We're taking and we're gonna relocate 2 existing light pole foundations, that way the village, as coordinated with the village, we're gonna have some 2 new light poles be placed up there that are gonna be a little bit more energy efficient and probably better than what they are now. Right now, there's a couple of existing metal halides that are really less than desirable, so we're gonna be replacing those. And then, like I said, the restriping and restructuring of this lot, that's gonna get us a couple of additional spaces. The other thing is we're gonna be bringing out the sanitary sewer, as we discussed, and kind of push it forward. They asked us to come out over here onto Route 9, which we're going to be doing over here. We compliant with everything that the village board asked. Overall, I think, the comments that do remain with Anthony's office and Valerie's office are all pretty technical in nature as far as other than the procedural comments. I think that we'll be able to get through that.
So I don't think your last submission didn't have in detail all the stuff you're doing, you agreed to do for the.
It did, the May 7th, so this is the May 7th submission.
No, but I meant in terms of the milling and all the stuff.
It was previous, I think that was.
As well as we did coordinate the location of the sanitary sewer.
No, I know that, but I meant just in terms of relocating the lights and all of that.
That was in there.
Right, no, I understand, but I meant, if we could have, it's on the plans, but I wanna just make sure that the board understands the stuff that's being agreed to by not this board, but the village board. Yeah, because this is
So maybe like an executive summary, just sort of.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
saying
so
here
that
are
right, because I don't, this is the first time I think this is being presented to the planning board, but I don't think the village board is aware of all the stuff that's being agreed to on their property.
And also the relocation of that lighting and improvement place into the photometric plan we're requesting also, that's why we're waiting for Rich to get final approval on that also, so. For the rear of the building anyways.
Right, so, and I guess that's just kind of tying in some, thoughts that, coming into here I was kind of thinking about more of the various different comments that, comments between Valerie and Tony's letters and kind of resolving these pieces. It sounds like, and I understand exactly what you're saying, this one kind of make it break it piece needs to be resolved. I agree. I think that makes, that's, what makes this project sink or float. And that's kind of what I'm, looking to you to kind of, I think what we've heard is that, I speak for myself and I do want to hear from other people on this board, but the ask right now is too big. And, how can that be brought down to something that's more reasonable? And,
I'll take a look at that again, the parking count for the apartments.
Yeah.
And also, people mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought we reduced by 5 spaces, which by using the shared spaces. And then 2 more with the restriping and cutting out the islands.
Sir, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sorry, Monticello B.
Yeah. I think we might be in a mod, we have to show that we're gonna, give for the commercial spaces that are required to, that we have, clear access to those spaces in the garage for retail, people utilizing that commercial space, which means they have to utilize right now the residential access to get downstairs to utilize those spaces, so we have to present that. So Valerie and Pete can review that as well, so.
And if that can be right, then that gets brought back to us, and then, we see revised parking calculations, and we can kind of see how. Yes, there's the number, there's how you're reaching that number, making sure that's being done in an appropriate way.
Right.
But then, DOT wants a recommendation, it's not, they just determine payment in lieu, but they're looking at us for a recommendation.
Sure, absolutely.
So, we need to kind of be at a point where, and it's just our recommendation, a positive recommendation to this board, it's not guaranteed approval either, so.
All right.
Hey, are there any other thoughts from the board?
All right.
Do you guys feel like you have, like, I realize we're kind of in that kind of.
No, I
dance
know,
right
yeah,
now, but-
no, we got some guys, certainly.
Okay.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think mainly the first step is to go to the ZBA.
Yes.
Let's get a sense of what they're
100%.
saying,
Yeah.
and then after that, we
Yeah.
can decide whether that goes back to the village board then now.
Right. Good.
Cool. Procedurally, can I have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
Michael Aaron's a motion to reopen the public hearing.
There's a second.
Great, any objections to that? Don't see anywhere in the public hearing, anybody here in the public to speak to the application? Anybody using the hand raise function, on Zoom? There's nobody, I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing,
Michael Aaron's motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I'll second.
and any objections? There are none. You guys have your marching orders, curious to, see this go to the ZBA and see what they say. I have a motion to adjourn the application. Objections? Thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. And,
It's a good.
yeah. Yeah. Item that we tabled to the end. So, anyway, all right, guys, thank you. Yeah, there, yeah, we gotta back up to the top of the agenda. I didn't even, I'm sorry, I thought that for some reason I thought it wasn't. So my apologies, we are up to the planning board 14/2023 VAR 17/23. For 171 Croton Avenue, we have the applicants, the applicant's not in the room, nobody here, not in the.
There's nobody left.
There's nobody in these seats, all right, can I have a motion to adjourn 171 Croton because nobody's here?
It's a motion to adjourn, 171 Croton. Is that?
All right, any objections to that? None. Adjourned. Now to the. I know, all right, okay, so this is the conversation discussion right now, which I guess is gonna be scouted by Valerie. There is a packet, I think that all of you guys have here, it's like this. So that's what we're gonna walk through, so this is I guess we're just providing feedback to the BOT on a couple of different zoning changes, definitions. Districts, and I guess another, I guess to see them.
Well, where do you want to start?
Let's just go in order, let's start with definitions.
Alright. I'm gonna just do real quick, like high level, like what the key elements are that we're changing, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Karen to talk a little bit about the non-conforming uses today. I mean, Karen and Fern helped with that, and there's a couple of things with even just some of the issues tonight, a couple of the cases tonight that just wanted to kind of, she'd even suggest.
Okay.
That we might, the board might want to amend that ability. So in terms of the definitions, this is the local law. The biggest, the change that we're proposing really focuses on heights and there we go. The difference of the definition of story.
Can we put this up? Sorry.
And similar to what we're dealing with right now with 109 to 11 Main Street, what really counts as the story, especially when you have sloped properties. So, and this was something that was specifically requested by building departments. And so we are refining the story definition and half story definition just to make it a little bit more clear as to how you're dealing with the definition of story. And calculating that definition. And the other item is when you're dealing with, also with stories in the NC1 and C2 districts, specifically dealing with residential uses. We are saying, because right now the zoning specifically says residential uses should not be on any located on the ground floor. But again, what do you do with the slope? Probably, like, is it really count as ground floor or not? And now it's specifically ground floor is going to specifically be defined as like the main entrance to the outside. So we're proposing that notwithstanding other provisions to the contrary, for the purpose of this section on slope properties, the ground floor shall be the entirety of the floor area on the same level as the main entrance to the outside. So on Main Street, it would be from Main Street, whatever that is, that's considered ground floor. So in terms of.
Even though it's like second floor on Leonard or.
That's right, because that's where a lot of people try to argue that, oh, but if you're on Leonard, it's your second floor, so it counts only from like to this, you know, the middle of the building counts, and now that's like the second floor.
Is there a definition of primary street or?
So we're allowed for the main entrance.
Main entrance of the building.
Right. For somebody.
So you could theoretically make a backwards building on Main Street, from Leonard.
Theoretically, if you really wanted to, I guess you could, but then I would assume that you.
Have fun at this board. Let's spend their time and money.
You as the planning board. So, I mean, if you have another suggestion that you'd like to, they go and send that.
No, the only thing when you were saying that, the only other thing that I was thinking about was like, and I'm thinking about specific projects that have come up where I know this has been an issue. If the main entrance is, is a few steps down on an areaway, and then there's like a stoop where it's a few steps up. And then you can get your ground floor on the, what might be defined as a basement, even though it could be the main entrance to the building. I don't know if there's any, that may be too arcane a scenario, but I feel like that's come up a few times.
And do you have a thought on that?
You're muted, Joe.
I'm sorry, say it again. I couldn't hear well.
We're just talking about the definition of the ground floor as being the floor, located at the main entrance to the building. I'm thinking of properties where you might have, it's probably more on Croton Avenue actually, where we've seen this, where you have like you step down like an areaway into a main entrance that might be more of defined as a basement, right next to the stoop, where you go up to a first floor. And whether I'm just, being silly in terms of, I'm thinking that might be a problem.
No, actually, the idea of this is it kind of matches similar to what is the way the state code is on it. It depends on if you have 50% of the floor level that's exposed out at least 7 feet or so many number of feet in height and so much that's on the ground. I mean, I think if I'm correct, I think Valerie, we talked about this is similar to something like we have like on Main Street, right? Where there's about or on we had a couple of properties because of the slopes where you end up with a full story, say in the front, and then in the back it's kind of underground. So I think it's really just to kind of clarify what we're claiming is actually counted as a story.
Right, is this like ground floor can be basement, but it can't be cellar?
Right, so there is a
Right.
definition, so there is a new, we revised the definition of story as
Right,
well.
right.
Which does include, basement garage or structured parking is a story if the surface of the floor is more than 6 feet above finished grade, more than 50% of the total building floor.
And that's like New York City. Okay, and maybe between I guess the space between the two, so if your main entrance is goes down into a basement, but it's defined as a story based on that criteria, then it would be the ground floor.
Right.
It would be the
Yeah,
ground floor.
and often, Seth, this is the similar issue what the state has about like on 1 and 2 family homes when you have sprinkler systems, what's considered an actual story that gets you to the third floor. And then
Right.
it would kick into like, a property owner would end up having to sprinkler a home because of the number of stories. But you'd be able to be exempt of something be considered a story if you're underneath a certain 50 percentage of exposure.
Right.
One of the other, so are there any other comments on that one, questions on that? So one of the other. One of the other edits is specifically requested by the ZBA dealing with, exterior stairs, landings, ramps, providing access for principal or accessory use. So this is the village board is proposing for replacement or reconstruction of exterior stairs, landing ramps, providing access to the principal or accessory structure may project into the required setback.
The ZBA sees it on about that, if someone's replacing their staircase and they have to get a variance
Right.
because they're all in
The village board did not want to include new construction of staircases, like just the replacement. That was something very specific.
Yeah, but then what happens if there's a replacement of a building is built in 2027 and then in 10 years from now, someone's gotta fix that.
That would be new construction.
I guess it would,
Right.
yeah.
And
No,
that,
it wouldn't, it's just, they would then revert back to the.
right. I mean, I think at that point, if somebody were to build now, they would have to get the variance. Then they would technically already have that variance on
It's fine, like I know that it's a big one for ZBA,
They're gonna
so.
be stoked.
Then the other the main edit is dealing with non-conforming uses, and I'm gonna turn that over to Taryn.
Yes, so the code tightly regulates how non-conforming uses can be stored, reconstructed, expanded, enlarged, so on and so forth. And and this really comes before the ZBA more than anything, we found that the provisions are kind of difficult to interpret and apply, what is an expansion, what is an enlargement? Is that a use variance, is that an area variance? So we really went through these provisions and we defined what an expansion and enlargement is. We articulated a test for the ZBA to use when evaluating those kind of applications. But that's where this started. But speaking with the Stuart Kahan today at 59 Dale, we were going back and forth about what is considered a structural repair, which doesn't require a variance, versus what is a structural alteration, which may require a variance. And we couldn't figure out which was right, which was wrong. So we are going to create definitions for those two pathways, so it'll be easier to apply in the future. And also one of the things that we've noticed with these revisions is we most often see the expansion and enlargements with respect to non-conforming multifamily dwellings. Someone has a non-conforming 3-family, they want to finish the attic and combine 2 units to make one gigantic apartment. That's an expansion or enlargement, so how are we going to deal with that? What we realized is it doesn't really address commercial uses, what is an expansion or enlargement of a commercial use? So that's also something to be added to this section.
Right.
So really it's a lot of clunky language and we're trying to make it as easy to apply as possible.
Makes sense.
So just for clarification though, for the commercial uses, for which section would you?
It would all be under 27039. It's clarifying how the expansion of non-conforming use provisions, how they apply to commercial uses, because how we're proposing to amend it, it defines what it is for residential uses, but it's not necessarily clear how that would apply to a commercial space.
So so for F3, that specifically where it says the extension of residential uses only, that was specifically requested by the village board. So if you're going to put in commercial, like that would probably either be worked into one of the other prior sections, or you'd have to create.
It might just be saying no expansion of commercial uses. It's just something that Stuart and I kind of realized today, is it's silent as to commercial. And I'd rather have something addressing it rather than leaving it up to interpretation. But we'll need some further.
Yeah, no, I just wanted, because at some point it didn't include residential, like that extension of residential uses only. And when I was in front of the village board, they raised the question of like, well, could it be commercial at that point? And so we said, yes, it could be either one. And they said they only wanted to have, like, their concern was to allow for like this to be specifically for residential, but they didn't want like commercial then to be expanding, like, especially if it's non-conforming commercial uses.
That it can just say that commercial
Right.
uses cannot be expanded.
Right.
And then we'd have to clarify, because we have seen some applications to expand non-conforming use. And the question was, is it an area variance, is it a use variance? So
Right.
we can clarify that,
Right.
so it's easier to apply moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing, especially on the residential, is it kind of sets parameters of only where you have to meet factors, why it would even be considered, because we've been getting a lot of applications where people already have, say, 1,000 square foot apartment and say, you know, I want to just expand it and get a variance and put another 1,000 more and make it a large apartment. On here, this kind of gets parameters of, you know, they'll entertain an enlargement or extension of something if you're trying to bring something into more conformance. Like the minimums, you know, if you have an apartment that's 500 square feet in the village's zoning code says that, you know, we want minimums of 800. If you're putting an extension on it or expanding on it to get it to the conformity of 800, that's something to be considered. It would be bringing it into more conformance. Which was really what the zoning board was doing anyway. They were entertaining them if you were trying to, you know, create something that correct something that was non-conforming into something more conforming. But what was happening is the way our law was written, people were just coming to the board with all kinds of applications trying to extend to excessive amounts of sizes of enlargements.
Right, so this will make it just a lot clearer for the ZBA to apply.
Yeah, that's great.
So those are the, oh, and then there's another section, and this deals with landscaping and lighting. And so we put new provisions in for landscaping and lighting, specifically dealing with lots that are subject to site plan review for landscaping. You know, just some best practices, but then also kind of trying to force people to add landscaping, considering there's, you know, there's a lot of urban heat islands and trying to reforest some of the tree canopy that has been lost to kind of encourage landscaping as part of any site plan. And then lighting, specifically dealing with standards for site plan or subdivision review. And then having standards for outdoor lighting for single, 2-family and 3-family residential structures.
Maybe not related. I know we talked in the past about potential site plan for new single family construction.
Yes, that is coming, that's the next round.
There's a lot.
Round two.
Don't get excited.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all, most of it is ready. We started showing it to the village board one evening with like all the edits. And we got through like number 4. And then they were like, whoa, that's a lot more. We're like, all right, maybe we should.
Chunk it.
So I was gonna ask, is we had discussed, you know, with the pile off language, amending it where the code says the planning board may refer prior to a secret determination being made, so you can get preliminary feedback from the BOT.
Okay,
Did
yeah,
they ever discuss that, or was that?
So that's not there, but
That's
right,
not
that's
there
it,
yet.
but yeah, I mean, we should, and especially now that this has been in practice. It's like, especially for the.
we've now done it twice, right? Did we get official feedback from them on Main Street or
For the,
the pilot for the parking bit?
for 209, well, that's because 217 we did because they were finished with secret.
Right, that was different.
The 209, 211, we technically had them go informally.
Got it.
And their informal was raising all the questions and concerns about the
Right.
number of states.
But that was specifically because of the interface with village owned property, like if that was all.
It
private
was
parcel,
because of that part.
And we allowed that
Yeah.
conversation then for turn.
Well, because they had that conversation with the DOT before they ever came to us, right? So they require access to that. Okay. Well, good.
So that's everything for this round or zoning.
Okay.
Number one.
Then we have SDN.
And yeah, so SPN, so this is something that, I definitely want board opinion on. Give you a little background on this. So on page 3 of the, I have a memo or not even, a memo, May 7th, 2026. Okay, so on page 3, that's the zoning district that we're looking at. Yeah, so it's down by, it's like the teardrop, down by Main Street, Water Street, with Here Beer Coffee, one of the cannabis dispensaries. And it's also right across, contiguous to 30 Water Street, in that new development. If you look at the next page, you'll see that there's a lot of, 2-family, 3-family, single-family homes, there's mixed use. Right now, the zoning in that, the SPN does not allow for any residential on the ground floor. So therefore, all the single-family, 2 families, 3 families, they're all non-conforming uses. And even, so part of, there was a, well, I'm sure everybody remembers, or those who were on the board, 14 Water Street, North
Yeah.
Water, right? So that was the impetus to look at the zoning and to maybe consider making zoning changes to this. We have had 2 public workshops where we went to the neighborhood and asked them what they wanted. And most of the feedback came back and said, we want to be able to keep our homes as conforming. And we want like small scale development, not very large scale in terms of like, if you have mixed use, they don't want large apartment buildings. I think at some point in time, and again, depending on who was on the board, there was a potential apartment complex being proposed
Yeah.
along Seaport, right? So all these things, we heard all that, and so one of the some of the challenges, if you look on page 2 of the memo, is how small these properties are.
Yeah.
They are extremely small. So what we have devised is, as this process, is to allow for single family, 2-family, mixed use, but no more than no more than 6 apartments. And also 3-family and 4-family homes.
Okay.
And we also are still proposing to keep the commercial. So any commercial uses that were already there, you know, we're just gonna carry all those permitted and conditional uses over.
Does that mean that any property though that could be developed as commercial anywhere in that zoning, it's not like,
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Maddie, if you can just share the proposed local
All
law.
of the existing uses would be legal, effectively all of the existing uses.
All the existing uses except for.
Not just grandfather, but those would be as of right uses.
Yeah.
For anywhere in
Right,
that.
right, there, if you look on page 5. Page 5, the properties in pink, based on what we're proposing, would be ones that would be non-conforming, but not non-conforming uses, but they would just be non-conforming in terms of like lot. Right, so we are now proposing to turn everything into basically all the uses would be conforming uses. But some might need variances because of certain lot sizes based on the number of units that they already have on site. If you can scroll down, Maddie, to those tables.
I'm sorry, Marty,
Yeah.
you're saying that if these changes, you're going to describe uses, but you're also gonna outline lot sizes as well.
Right, so there is, I'm sorry, the appendix, sorry.
Do you want me to go to
The appendix, no, the table, appendix A. Or B, use table B1, sorry, I'll go back again.
So I'm wondering, I'm curious if you remember the project that JB brought to us where they're building apartments.
They wouldn't be able to do that.
They would not be able to.
No, because the maximum would be, if you did a mix, the maximum is 6 units, and that would have to be part of a mixed use building.
Well, no, that property was on
Water Street, the one, the redeveloped one, the.
the red brick building that he built.
That would be okay, right? Based on this, the red brick would just be.
Oh, I heard you want to.
There was a block.
Yeah, Pedro still voted not to. Right, but what, JB did, I'm pretty sure it would be.
Like a 5 or 6, as long as it's not more than 6 families, it would be.
Bam.
And then, sorry, and this will probably be on this table, but I remember one of the issues at Water Street was was no setbacks, right? It was, they were as of right.
Yeah, so if you scroll down. Keep strong. Keep strong. Keep on. There we go. So now those are the proposed new setbacks for each of the, and it.
Those are pretty significant.
So we are proposing for like a single family, here, the minimum lot area is 1,500 square feet. Because that is just literally what we see in that area in terms of, yes. So the 2 families are 2,500 square feet. And if you we looked at the existing, condition and, some of your single family homes are, they're small.
Yeah.
The properties are small in which these are operating. But what we did look and we did an analysis of, I'm sorry, Maddie, it's also part of your packet. There was another memo that I provided. Yes, thank you. So we did an analysis of like the proposed setbacks.
Mine's not double sided.
No, that was, I think it was part of this.
Okay, got it.
There's 2 memos, one of them had, we actually did analysis of like what you could potentially build, like, so for 1,500 square feet for a single family, assuming 40% impervious coverage and some of the setbacks, you would still get a building footprint of 773 square feet. It's a small building, but it's doable. Right. Right, and part of the concerns of the planning board, the village board was to try to get as much parking on site, and technically you could build this single family home with a garage, and it would be small, but. It's
Single family needs 2 parking spots though, right?
Right, you have a garage and then the driveway, if you want.
Would that be considered parking in front, or would that be allowable?
That would be allowable, because we're gonna be changing as long as it's part of a driveway, right? And then if not, they can do a payment in lieu of parking. So right now, what we are proposing is depending upon the lot size, that will relate to what type of residential structure we could build. So larger lot size, you can get a 3-family, smaller lot size, 1 family. And somebody could technically try to, get a variance from the ZBA, but I think with having these parameters, I think the ZBA would be left inclined unless for some reason they're really on the top of like.
Or purchase multiple lots and combine them.
Well, they could, yes. The issue there is that one of the concerns were that you can't have large apartment buildings, so that's why we're limiting to no more than 6 dwelling units.
Right, but some of these lots, you could combine 3 of them and have a reasonable 6
Right.
unit
Right, you could,
resident.
right.
But in essence, what it feels like to me is more we're trying to preserve the integrity of the neighborhood for
That's
the
right.
existing residents and protect them from, you know, overzealous development.
I am gonna say, like, this is right next to the train station, this is where we should have lots of houses. So like, there's a part of me that like, I was here for that Water Street project. And it was really painful, for them, but also for the community, having, like, this is where we should be building housing and having people live, where it's like right in the middle of, you don't need to drive to get to the train, you just like, so there's a part of me that I feel uncomfortable with this from that respect.
Well, Seth, you're absolutely right. A lot of municipalities are doing what we just said, and we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I live down there and I'd like to see more housing go up there. I mean,
That's 30 Water Street.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Which is great, and but that works there because, and your building works there because of where it is, and I think this is like smack dab in the middle of that, and it's, it's like in all of Ossining, it's there's a lot of site issues with it and hills and, but I think like six families works, like, I don't know, I just don't, I don't want I worry that the village kind of locks itself out of potential future, and I realize it's maybe not a super popular opinion, but it seems like it just needs to be at least noted.
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of the argument and, transitory development is great and. But I feel torn on this one, and I do feel, I think because of 14 Water Street, sort of protective, if you will, of, preserving that community for the people who live there. But
Was like a TOD overlay ever considered or something on those lines?
So I'll say that in terms of the history of this area, I mean, the current zoning, which basically is lot line to lot line, it's basically your village center zoning right down there. It's been on the books for 15 years now. And there hasn't been
It's because of the lot sizes, right?
Lot sizes are really small,
Right.
right? And so that's really part of the problem, and also having, even with like that larger apartment building, they were still gonna have problems with access because you're dealing with the flow, right, of C4. And so I think that because between that and 14 Water Street, I think the village board wanted to take a look at this the small zoning district to say, is it really feasible, or does it really make sense to have high density, large scale apartment building within this area versus something more smaller scale? You can still, I mean, the density that's associated with these technically it's very high density because we're dealing with 1,500 square feet or 2,500 square feet for a lot.
But I guess there's a difference between saying, 6 family, 4 or 5, 6 family homes versus, building single family homes in that area, which I just, economically, I don't know if that, it just, I don't know. I mean, and to the degree that those lot sizes aren't even, they exist, I mean, there are these teeny,
Right, and most of them have, buildings are already on, I think. So that's the reasoning behind it, that what we sort of came up with to accommodate, the concerns from the neighborhood and the wishes of trying to maintain what they have there.
And you just looked at people within this area, right?
So we had, yes, to a larger extent, we had a public basically a public workshop down at, here in Beer Coffee. For a couple of years ago, we had one all day long, and then we had an evening one. And then we went back again just recently to say, this is what we're now proposing.
Yeah, it was June 2024 and then April 2026. And, it was widely advertised, but certainly, many people from that neighborhood were not first in the door because, it directly affects
Yeah, I
them.
know about
But
it.
certainly we got, folks who are commuters and, folks who just, traverse the neighborhood on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And it just applies to this SPN.
That's it.
Yeah.
This is a district.
And let me just ask a question, so I don't know if Mr. Silver owns that property that he came, to us with that proposal, but so now, what, if he still owned that property, what would he be able to do?
So I believe that particular property owner owns like 3 of these properties, right? So at this point, he would be able to redevelop each one of those individually,
But
right?
potentially up to a
Or
6-family.
merge them.
We can merge
Yeah.
them, right?
Because I remember the issue, one of the big issues was the fact that ground floor residential wasn't allowed with his proposal, so there was, discussion.
Ground floor residential is a no-brainer, right? Like there's no benefit in having ground floor
Right, I
commercial.
think the concern for that particular proposal was that they were trying to match, because it was up to 4-story.
Right.
And then whatever, density you can fit onto that site, and I think that was the biggest issue, was that it was.
And what about, is 65 Main Street is not included in this, that red building that's like right at the top, that, what's his name, Peter Chernoff had the proposal, so that's just sitting there.
I'm not fixing that, is it?
No. Well, they had a proposal, but.
Yeah.
There's one.
7 years ago.
Yeah,
That was a great proposal.
it was.
That was actually, it's a project.
So I think for the most part, they are still allowing like 4 stories or 48 feet for like the mixed use buildings and even 4-family units.
Mhm.
To accommodate, to allow for some potential parking on site, and then also the units above. The other types, like the 3-family is like 3 stories, 42 feet, or 4 stories and 48 feet if all required parking is provided on site. And then 2-family is between 2.5 or 3 stories, depending on the providing parking.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, mixed use is still permitted.
Yes, and so is commercial. So that hasn't changed.
Got it.
So the only thing that, I think the biggest changes are specifically allowing for residential ground floor, but then also limiting the total number of units for particular thing.
6.
6 for mixed use, yes, or 4 then.
Oh, so mixed use is what gets you to 6.
Yeah, I think the difficulty we had is that if we started increasing the number of units, then you were gonna have to require even larger properties, which would then start to try to consolidate.
I just think, thinking about, again, just taking the example, the working water project, I think one of the complaints about that was the mixed use component of it, right? So it's like having, 6-family all residential, I feel like would be better for that neighborhood, which is quiet at night, than a mixed use, 6-family. Like, I don't know why the 6-family would be tied to that. I just think thinking of ways of
Yeah.
allow, fitting nicely in the neighborhood without, while still being able to add a little bit more density.
We can go back and the recommendation is to increase the number of dwelling units. I know the village board, their biggest concern was parking.
Well, Valerie, I just explain to, on my side of the tracks, like, what's going on over there? Cause there's a lot of vacant buildings I see when I walk between my building and the boathouse restaurant. There's nothing going on, except some marinas.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So there was actually, a recommendation in the 2021 comprehensive plan, specifically for that neighborhood on the west side of the train tracks, to limit, new residential development because of potential flooding concerns. And that's something that was actually memorialized into law, I think it was in 2025 by the Village Board of Trustees, they did adopt that recommendation. There are a few, potential exceptions, because I think there's a floating zone that Harbor Square enjoys that could also be utilized. But, mainly from a climate change perspective, that side of the train tracks, we don't necessarily want to encourage, a lot of residential development on that side of the tracks going forward.
Like the Crawbucky Preserve project, that's included in that?
No, that's
No,
not.
it was sort of zoning districts is the something, yeah, so the RDP zoning district, I think, has fewer parcels even than SPN. It's a pretty, I mean, they're larger parcels, but it's only a very small chunk of the waterfront. And I think Broadbucky is well beyond, you know, because you have like the PWC, like the industrial area and stuff. So it's everything that's south of that industrial area going towards.
Was the old Branson on there?
That is in PW.
That is
somewhere.
PWB.
I mean, I understand the parking concerns, but I do share, Seth's, sentiment about 6-family and without a ground floor commercial.
So, all right,
Could you articulate a little bit?
yeah,
like,
so how would you like, how would you like?
I mean, it's
There's no
my,
mixed use, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Family by right.
six family by right, because the mixed use, the mixed use would be incentivizing kind of mixed use in that neighborhood, which is, you know, like, it was like music studios at night or whatever, which was, I thought a really legitimate complaint. But it's, you know, as long as, you know, parking is, you know, definitely, like, figure it out, these lots are small, and maybe we would need to combine a couple lots to do that fit parking. Maybe there's only 1 or 2 lots where that could actually work, but that'd be true for mixed use anyway, so.
Right, so we could, so you would be comfortable suggesting, allowing 6-family by right. But then like, so as we're proposing, as the lots scale up, you can go larger in the total number of units. So working that also into it, not just like automatically 6 units wherever you could try to squeeze and.
Right, you still have the area, you know, there's I think you have a ratio between lot size.
Right, and then
Resident.
just create that too.
Yeah.
So are we discouraging mixed use?
We're not discouraging mixed use,
Because I
but
think
we're.
that's important down there.
You're encouraging housing.
We're encouraging housing, and the way that the majority of that lot is, it's that Seacourt Main teardrop, there's no viable commercial use on that.
That hasn't already been done.
I mean, there is on at the tip of the teardrop, which is, you know, which works, I mean, does that make the ground, does that, I don't know, I just think.
This tip is opposed to.
No, this,
Yeah,
right, you have like the
yeah,
prolonged
yeah,
map
right,
down
yeah,
here,
yeah,
and
fence to-
storage, and, yeah.
Yeah, oh, and.
Yeah, exactly.
Beachy color.
So I can do about anything else? We have concerns with?
I think we talked enough about it.
Well, in fairness, I mean, like, this has been, I mean, and Valerie and Danielle and, you know, everyone else, you know, Taryn and Tony and everyone else who's weighed in on this are to be commended, because this is a very, very narrow tightrope, you know, to get this exactly right. Because even when you think you have it exactly right and everybody's happy, someone goes, but what about the parking? And everyone goes, oh, and then you can start like all completely over. So I think, you know, this feedback is great. I don't think it's something that had been discussed or considered, the 6 families as of right. But, you know, I think, you know, we could talk about this for another several hours and I mean, it's a very complicated, you know, neighborhood for, you know, 50 different reasons. So I think the thoughtfulness being really appreciated.
Right, and I can specifically suggest to the village board that you want to allow for up to 6-family by right. And that,
Jeremy, is that something that can be, you know, mid-block as opposed to, or can you not really? Like,
dictate where.
Right, yeah, exactly, you know, it's like you're thinking about the parking lot fronting lot versus like the mid-block on Seacourt, which are
Right.
just, you know, accessed differently.
right, so I think that, I mean. Right, so I think that gets a little bit more complicated, right, specifically, I don't. You would almost have to like have another. Zoning just, I don't know, what are your thoughts, Karen? Like. I think it was hard when you say like.
Spot zoning.
Yeah.
It's not, if there's a plan, it's not spot. Maybe some sort of overlay or maybe a density bonus system. I kind of-
Or front, you know, well, that wouldn't block into mid-block, but I was just, you know, the frontage, you know, the linear footage of street frontage versus.
Based on
Right, so I think. You know, there's a number of the like. the number of properties that would be able to handle like a
Six family
unit would
yeah.
be not that many.
Right.
And most of them would not be along Seaport, except if you got to one of the corners.
Right.
Well, particularly because you would need some of the village owned parcels to create an assemblage, right? And I mean.
Yeah, and then
that's-
you would need some depth, right, to that
Well,
building.
because you need to pick parking on there, right? So I mean, maybe the constraints are just built into the.
Right.
And this could also potentially be a location where, because it is so close to the train station, where lower parking ratios might be warranted. Potentially, maybe.
Yeah.
You can make it.
I'm all
Yeah,
about it.
Karen.
I do a lot of work like in like Hastings, where
Yeah.
if you live close to the train station, we're seeing your
I
cars.
am with you on that.
People move there knowing that they don't.
Right, and I think that's why they have the payment removal parking, you know, I think the biggest concern from the village board is to prevent somebody, a developer coming in, trying to maximize the site, and then say, I can't fit parking.
Right, right. And maybe that's where the area, I don't know, whatever, that gets a little convoluted, but if you get 6 units, if you can fit all the parking on site.
All the parking is owned by the village on Main Street there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And will remain in perpetuity.
One never knows.
RFP out there for. Okay.
So I can even suggest that if you'd like to say, allow us down there right with a larger lot size and able to accommodate parking on site.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, we're trying to spitballing and I realize we're coming in late in the process, but it's just, I'm having
No, this
flashbacks
is-
to these old conversations and thinking about.
No, this is why I'm having this conversation,
Yeah.
you know?
No, totally. All right,
So, but other than that, is the board in favor of this, the overall concept of what's being proposed in the changes?
I am.
yeah.
If you need everything, I think it's that coffee at your beer.
Gotta walk up the hill for village. Let's speak for Louis here.
They both are very good.
Well, if you're mid-block, you have to go uphill one way and down to another, no matter where you.
We'll just drop it. Roll.
I just roll. I don't think about it.
But there was one more, the moratorium.
The T district moratorium is up on suspension and we are still working on that. That is becoming a little bit more complicated, but a standing contract because we originally thought it was just gonna be T district and just dealing with some of the conditional uses there. But when we started realizing that a number of the conditional uses are permitted in pretty much every district, so educational, religious uses. But there's no like real regulations, requirements, and so we're taking a step back and looking at some of those conditional uses and turning them into special permit uses and like, and not necessarily, like, so for example, like, we'll use religious uses, for example. Right now, it just says religious uses and it has minimum lot area of 3 acres. And think about how many religious uses are in Ossining and the film has the 3 acres, right? So we're going to create like tiers of like, you know, your community type of like large scale, right? And then you have your neighborhood types of religious uses. And so working on those and what those regulations do.
Yes, story fine.
And I'm using that as an example, but education is another one, you know, so there's a few others that like are sort of ubiquitous throughout the zoning, but we never created any sort of regulations. And some of these properties now are starting to turn over or no longer operating like they used to, and so it's
We kind of
what happens
saw
to them
one of those
and
today,
right,
right? That was
so.
cool.
Lots of hard work here.
Yeah, I know. I watched a good part of your work session with BOT on that's something.
Did it make any sense?
Yeah, no, it's like, why I did it is.
Yeah.
It was like, but yeah, so anyway, but it's a lot, so.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Dispensary on Main Street, did we never say on going into that location?
Which is that?
The dispensary going on Main Street.
The one that was discussed as part of today.
Today. Yeah, everyone was seeing what was going on.
So the village board of, we're still on. But just by way of brief, the village board of trustees had the option to opt in or opt out of the adult use cannabis dispensaries. And while they were contemplating having some regulations around what zoning districts you would not be allowed to have an adult use cannabis dispensary in, ultimately they decided to allow it in the Main Street, for BC. So that was, part of the legislation that was adopted recently.
Right, and I think some of that would, and Karen can explain it better, but state is not allowed, they see it as a retail.
It's very, very difficult to differentiate general retail versus cannabis. It's just how the state has been operating their regime. This has been tested in court, and if you restrict cannabis in comparison to retail uses, you're at risk for litigation.
Right.
And it doesn't go very well in this municipality usually. So.
Can I ask a different procedural question, not related to cannabis?
I mean, we're still.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think, I'm just curious.
Well, you can ask for an executive session if you prefer.
I've heard, it's about the parking garage, tell me if we.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious, that is not something that came before this board for site plan review, and I'm just curious why, is it because it's village?
It's a village project on village owned property.
Okay, yeah, so, and is that gonna be the same thing for the project next to the post office, that proposed project there?
I don't recall. I don't know if we've made that determination.
Yeah, well, 30 Waters.
No, Spring on Main.
No, it was
Is that private developer?
30 Water Street
Did come here?
came to the.
Sure, yeah, it was a private developer.
Then yes.
Yeah,
Like,
but the same.
The key here is, even though it's village property, we're disposing of by RFP, if it's a village, if it's a private developer, then it would require it, but if it's a village doing.
What would you say that's the section?
I'm just curious.
The schools, there are.
Well, they responded to the state of. We do have one more order of new business, super quick, and cheerier. Jamie, if you're able to come up and mute, I want to say happy birthday to our building inspector, Joe Castanelli, with both.
It's okay. These birthdays are not celebrated much anymore. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Last week, so he said he'd like to save his birthday song for the
Yes,
next.
it's big fun, it's big fun. You want to take away from Joe's special?
Motion to adjourn.
Any objections?
None.
Turn off the Zoom. Thank you.
Good night.